After the Fourth Great Ninja War, there was peace and quiet in Konoha. Naruto was walking the streets with Sakura. "It's so boring, Datbeo," said the boy looking up at the blue sky. But there was nothing to be done about it. At the same time at the Hokage's residence. "Uruka, look for Naruto, I have a mission for him," Kakashi said with a serious face. "What kind of mission is it?" asked the teacher with a slightly interested face. "No, you will know when he comes." The Hokage was as serious as ever. "All right, I'll go look for him," Uruka said and left immediately. Kakashi thought to himself, another world, so I'm not sure if he'd approve, but I'd have to ask him if he'd agree. "I'm hungry, I'm going to Ichiraku ramen." Naruto said this optimistically and turned to Ichiraku with a satisfied face. "Uncle, Tyuki, a ramen." "Oh, Naruto, it's ready. It's so good." After a hearty meal, Uzumaki began to walk through the streets of Konoha, but was interrupted by Uruka-sensei. "Naruto, the sixth Hokage summons you." "Kakashi-sensei, what do you want?" the blonde asked with a surprised face, as he didn't expect Uruka-sensei to come. "A mission. A mission? What rank is it?" "Kakashi just told me it was a mission, nothing more. Unless it's a mission to catch a cat. Otherwise, I'll go on any mission." Naruto was very optimistic and interested as he wanted to find out what the mission was about. All the way they walked in silence, without talking to each other. After a long walk, Naruto and Uruka arrived at the Hokage's residence. They went up to the second floor where the sixth man's office was located and entered it. "Uruka, can you come out? Naruto and I need to talk in private." Kakashi had a serious face. Well. Sensei was a little startled when he heard those words. After that, he went out and a conversation between Kakashi and Naruto about the mission ensued. "Well Naruto, I have a mission for you." Uzumaki didn't have time to say anything, he was immediately interrupted by Kakashi. "But first, I need your consent, will you accept this mission, yes or no?" "Kakashi-sensei, I don't understand you, what do you mean by consent?" The guy didn't know what he meant by, accept the mission. "You mean I can refuse the mission?" "Yes, but I don't understand," the Hokage said it with a thoughtful face. "What don't you understand? Why didn't you ask about the mission?" "Well, that's right, what is the mission? What rank is it? And what will I have to do?" "Okay Naruto, this is a very serious and complicated mission." Kakashi lied to Naruto, this mission was easy, it was to find a stone. A chakra stone that was rumored to be left by the Sage of the Six Paths. "Okay Naruto, I won't lie to you, the mission was easy, you have to find the chakra stone left by the Sage of the Six Paths." Naruto was surprised, but not because the mission was easy, but because this chakra stone had been left behind by the Sage of the Six Paths. "The chakra stone, why did you choose me? I have sent people before, but only one came back." "What? Only one came back, where are the others?" "I talked to him and he said, those who touched the stone were burned alive. He believes that only a descendant of the Sage of the Six Ways can touch the stone." "And where is this stone?" Naruto was surprised at the news that people could die from the stone. "Maybe Kurama knows, I'll ask him." "Ask him. The subconscious. Kurama. What do you want Naruto? Don't you know anything about the chakra stone that the Sage of the Six Paths made?" "Chakra stone? I don't remember him creating it." "Are you sure you don't remember?" "I don't remember, but maybe he did, I'm telling you I don't remember." "Well, thanks anyway, Kurama. Well, I'm off. The real world. Kakashi-sensei, Kurama doesn't know anything." Naruto's upset. "Well, cheer up. So, where am I going to look for the stone?" "It's in the Forest of Death, in some cave. But you'll find the cave quickly since you have shadow clones." "All right Kakashi-sensei, I'm going." Uzumaki left the office and headed to the 44th training ground, commonly known as the Forest of Death. Overcoming a fence that said, "Do not enter," and, "Dangerous." After that Naruto nostalgic a bit of the past days of fun, and then used shadow cloning, tasked with finding a cave with an unusual rock, he waited. After 20 minutes, a clone found a cave with a suspicious glowing rock. The blonde quickly ran to that place. He reached it, but for some reason it didn't glow. Naruto slowly approached the stone, picked it up and suddenly it glowed so brightly that it fell out of the Uzumaki's hands and the stone stopped glowing. Ah, okay. Naruto was surprised, he thought he was the only one the stone reacted to like that. He picked up the stone once more. It glowed again, but now Naruto had a strange feeling, but then, the guy disappeared and appeared in some strange dimension. Turning back, Uzumaki saw the Sage of the Six Paths. Hello Naruto, long time no see. Sage of the Six Paths, how did you get here and where are we? Naruto, you touched my stone, didn't you? Well, yes. This stone sends you to another world. And now that you're going to live there, you can't go back. What? Are you serious? Yes, I'm serious. But there are a couple of things you need to know. Okay, I'm listening. The boy was terrified that he would never return to Konoha again. 1. There's only one place in this world where people live, and it's enclosed by 3 walls, Maria Wall, Rose Wall, Sheena Wall. 2. Titans live there, they are tall people, they have no sexual organs or digestive system. The old man began to give a little tour of the rebirth of his youngest son. All this time Naruto sat there with a smart face, but in reality he understood absolutely nothing, only the essentials that he had memorized. And one last thing. He took air in his lungs, and continued speaking. I will improve your powers 4 times. Grandfather began to slowly disappear, with his 2 brushes already vaporized. After waiting 5 minutes and spotting the 5-meter-tall titan, Naruto decided not to kill anyone yet. The boy decided to act in silence, avoiding the giants and killing them when necessary. The blonde walked very slowly through the forest so as not to be seen by the titans. The boy decided to climb a tree and move along the upper paths, so that the titans would not catch him. A small fox appeared in front of him. Kurama. Naruto, we don't have much time. Father forgot to tell you something. Naruto looked at the fox in all seriousness. First, the sage gave you 2 Sharingan to make it easier for you to fight the giants. That's all, goodbye. The fox also disappeared as he appeared. The boy, hearing this information, kept jumping through the trees looking for a way out. Naruto saw the corpse and approached him. His lower body was missing and judging by the body temperature the man had been dead for a long time. Next to him lay his VME, the vertical maneuvering equipment. Uzumaki placed his VME on him and continued jumping through the trees. Since gas was scarce, he would only use it against titans. Jinchuriki decided to activate his Sharingan. Directing his chakra to his eyes, he saw everyone's life energy and went to where there was a lot of it. Jumping to where there was a lot of energy, the boy arrived at the exit of the forest. There were soldiers on horseback in a clearing. They were fleeing from a horde of titans. Naruto took out his swords and held them in his hands and looked at the titans. Wow, in open terrain, the VME is almost useless. Okay, I've been there. Naruto ran across the clearing with the swords in his hand. He ran so fast that only his silhouette was visible. Uzumaki killed the titans without using the unit. He just jumped on their necks and cut the weak point. Commander Erwin, in the back. Erwin has short blonde hair and blue eyes. He looked back. He was surprised. There were at least 10 titans behind them. Who are they? He asked the scout. We don't know, someone unknown. The boy's swords had broken and he had no spare. The last titan was in front of him, already reaching up to grab the little guy. Naruto ran around him, jumped on the back of his neck and slashed it with his hand. The little guy jumped off his neck and headed towards the squadron. All the scouts were startled, even Levi was a little surprised. The corporal jumped off his horse and Smith did the same. They got quite a distance and looked at each other. Hello, little guy, what's your name? Levi asked. Who are you calling little man, Datbeo? I'm 19 years old. Don't I know it? Wait, what's wrong with my voice? It's a little squeaky. Give me a mirror. Instead of a mirror, he was given a razor. He took it in his hands and looked at the reflection. I'm a real boy. I don't have time for this now. How did you do it? And how do you know how to control the maneuvers? Erwin asked, looking at his bloody hand. I didn't know, I didn't use them. I jumped on the titans and cut off the back of their necks. And how I killed it with my hand. He had to think of something. I had a spare blade, so I cut off the back of his neck. At first they didn't believe I had a blade, but when they remembered how quickly it appeared in the back of the Titan's neck, all suspicions disappeared. Would you like to join the Survey Corps? The blonde asked. Would you need to kill Titans? Erwin nodded his head. All right, I'll join. Only if I'm on your team. Naruto pointed his finger at the short man. I don't mind, Levi, what do you think? Such a strong fighter will be very useful for our team. Okay, I agree. Oh, right. I forgot to introduce myself. My name is Naruto Uzumaki. I agree. We're going home, only we don't have a spare horse. Erwin looked at everyone behind him. Sit with Levi. Naruto sat with the brunette and they headed home. Part 2. All the time Naruto was asking Levi if they were coming soon. He was tired already, so he started to insist. Tired, so he began to instruct the answer to his question, we'll be here soon, so wait. The 4 Titans backed away. Someone shouted, and Levi's eyes lit up, the first time someone is racing him to kill a Titan. Look brat, I'm going to kill them faster than you. Naruto just hummed in response and watched as the corporal jumped off his horse. He really did kill them fast, all the Titans in 30 seconds. Levi got back on his horse. Did you see that? I can do it faster, and she turned away from him. The boy, after saying that, clenched his fist. He wanted to punch the blonde, but restrained himself. Shatten didn't understand why, but when he looked at the boy, a warm feeling brewed in his chest, as if that blonde with blue eyes and disheveled hair was his subordinate. They reached the outer wall, and after waiting for the gates to open, the Legion began to enter the city. Levi and Naruto were the last in line. Do not react violently to the shouts, ignore them. I don't want any trouble, said the corporal looking at Naruto. Naruto nodded and they set off. When Purell's horse entered the village, everyone started shouting, the strongest, and the like. But the boy was upset about something. He heard someone to his right say, the strongest and some little boy. This made Naruto very angry. Who said that? He got up from his horse and started looking around at the townspeople. I'll ask you again. Who said that? Suddenly someone in the crowd raised his hand. What are you going to do to me, you green brat? Uzumaki was getting really angry, steam was coming out of his body. The guy walked up and looked him straight in the eye. What now? Naruto kicked the man's knee, with all his might his leg swung the other way, the man screamed across the street. Levi grabbed him by the collar and dragged him along the ground. Levi. Let go of me. No way. You'll do something else. Naruto tried to pull his arm away, but he couldn't, he was afraid he would break it. Survey Corps has passed the Maria Wall and will stop at the Pink Wall. Naruto, why did you do that? It will cripple him. I won't let anyone insult you. Levi's eye began to twitch, it was getting to him. He hit Naruto on the head and he fainted. Wow, he had no respect for his elders. They arrived at the headquarters, it looked like a 2-story house, very nice, but if you enter. It's horrible. Levi likes cleanliness, he almost felt sick. There was dust and cobwebs everywhere. Now there is going to be a special mission, we have to clean this house of all the junk. Levi sent Naruto to clean the whole 2nd floor, only he didn't realize that Naruto had a big ace up his sleeve. The guy used his speed and started cleaning, not even 15 minutes passed and the whole 2nd floor was sparkling. The guy went downstairs where Levi was cleaning, before doing so he remembered to dispel the clones. Levi, I'm done. Wait here, I'm going to take a look. He walked over to the 2nd one and started looking around as much as he could, trying to find something to nibble on, but try as he might, he couldn't find a speck of dust. Making his way downstairs, the corporal made his way to the room where he had left Naruto. Naruto was sleeping on the couch, wrapped in a blanket and falling asleep peacefully, tired from the day. The next day Naruto was awakened by Peter at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Naruto. Wake up. Uzumaki reluctantly opened his eyes and looked at the girl. Who are you? My name is Petra Rawl. The girl had light red hair and amber eyes. The blonde stood up from the couch, now he could tell that this girl was relatively short, about 5 feet 6 inches or so. Next to the door was Levi, he looked at them but decided not to disturb them. Naruto, Erwin is calling you. His room is on the second floor. Naruto left the room and headed that way. As he walked up the stairs he started to look for his room. It was easy since there were 3 rooms. Now guess what his room was. At least he put up a sign. Entering through the door closest to him he found Erwin sitting at a desk, filling out papers, but I don't think you're interested in what Captain Smith has on his desk, I'm more interested in why he called our hero who likes to find trouble on his heels. Come in, Naruto. I want you to participate in the 48th expedition beyond the walls. Erwin put all the papers in his hand in a pile with the rest of the papers. Of course, sir. Only. Why do you ask? Erwin got up from the desk and walked to the window behind him and began to look out over the city. Well, you're only 10 years old, I'm not sure you'll be accepted by the residents. Until you do well on this excursion, they will treat you like cattle. I hope you prove your worth. I see. Naruto began to look around the room. We're leaving tomorrow, I've already warned everyone. Recharge your gasoline and swords. I hope you kill more titans than Levi, you have a competition going on. Yes, indeed. He grinned with his 32 teeth and walked out of the office. Part 3. Naruto was walking around the city, forgetting a few things. What a beautiful day, I don't have to go anywhere. I'm going to sleep somewhere. The boy was walking around the city looking for a place to sleep. In his search, he had already managed to pass behind the wall. Maria, there was a lonely tree, he decided to sleep under it. As soon as Uzumaki fell asleep, he felt the power of Levi and immediately opened his eyes. He got up and ran to the wall and jumped over it. I think I forgot something very important, thought the boy running to the wall. If I see that pig, I'll kill him right away, said Levi looking ahead. They had to go to the wall. Well, that depends on who kills who. What did you just say? The scout got goosebumps and started to twitch. Bite your teeth. That was followed by a punch to the jaw. The blow was so hard, the scout was thrown from his horse into the crowd. Naruto ran along the wall like a wrestler trying to stay out of sight of the brunette. If I catch his eye, I'll be totally screwed. After thinking about it, he remembered something very important. Today was the 48th exit behind the wall, how silly. How could I have forgotten? He decided to stop and sit on his knees. He sat there for about 15 minutes, during which time nearly all of the scouts had come out of the walls, and headed for the rose wall. The blonde got up from his knees and continued walking along the wall, surveying the city. With his side vision, the blue-eyed man noticed a boy being beaten. Naruto decided to intervene and stop the beating. Naruto didn't jump yet, as he noticed someone coming towards him. A boy and a girl were running towards them. The boy had brown hair and blue-green eyes. Behind him was running a girl with long black hair and a scarf around her neck. This girl had a very scared expression. This girl had a very frightened expression. The thugs ran away when they saw her. Naruto decided to walk back to where he had almost fallen asleep, the tree. It took him 10 minutes to get there, even though he was running. The boy jumped off the wall, and went over to it to lie down and fall asleep. He was awakened by a very loud noise. He thought he heard it and went back to sleep. 5 minutes later he was awakened again by another loud noise, but this time it was very close. Naruto got up and started to look around. To his right the wall was destroyed. In front of him was a titan, but it was unusual, almost all covered in armor. Wait, if it's in here. A terrible assumption popped into his head. No, they couldn't get through that wall, it's about 50 meters away. Naruto looked back. The boats were leaving, but some of the people were still there, as there was no time left, and not enough boats. Naruto jumped over the titan's shoulder and looked at him until he noticed him. The titan noticed him after a minute. It tried to punch him but Naruto managed to jump out of the way. Oops. Naruto successfully landed on both feet. Let's talk. Oh, right, you can't talk. Ah, right. My name is Naruto Uzumaki, and you better run or you're screwed. 30 seconds to think. The titan immediately kicked him but Naruto jumped to the side. The armored man at first didn't realize where he had stepped in. He decided to look at his leg. There was no blood on it. Naruto landed on his arm. In a nice way, which means we don't understand. The guy jumped and then hit his arm with all his might. His arm flew off in the other direction. Naruto landed on the ground and proceeded to his leg, hit it and flew off. After these blows the Titan started to run away. The guy ran towards the boats. On the way to them, he saw a couple of corpses. He did not pay attention to them. He ran towards the boats. If you see any Titans out there, shout, I'll help you. He ran with them all the way. No Titans were anywhere to be seen. The refugees swam to the rose wall and waited to be let in. And Naruto went to the Survey Corps base. Reluctantly, he got there in 30 minutes. He opened the door, immediately met with a fist. He was hit by Levi. Naruto was thrown 2 meters away, lying belly down, his head almost buried in the ground. Where have you been, you sack of shit? Naruto barely lifted his head off the ground, sat down on his knees and began to answer his questions. By the wall, Maria, Naruto answered pitifully looking at the floor. What were you doing there? Levi wanted to hit him, but it depended on his answer. The Maria wall was under attack, he was fighting an armored titan. But it was no use. Did you defeat it? Levi and the others were stunned at what they heard. How were the Titans going to destroy it? The wall is 50 meters high. You could say yes, he escaped. But I managed to tear off a leg and an arm. Levi picked him up and dragged him into the house. Everyone else looked at him with a smile on their face. They had never seen him like that. He didn't let go, not even when they entered the house. He dragged him up to the second floor, to Erwin's office. Levi opened the door and threw Naruto into the study and went inside himself. The corporal stood by the door and watched them. Watching them. Naruto, in 2 years you will be going to the cadet corps. What the hell is that? Naruto rubbed his head, showing Erwin that he didn't know what he was talking about. They'll teach you how and what to do. You've never used a VME, have you? Naruto nodded his head and listened. They will teach you how to do everything. We all want you to be the first to finish your training. Okay, I'll be the best. How long will this training last? 3 years. Naruto's eyes popped out and his mouth dropped open in surprise. Why so long? Naruto thought. You can only go there from the age of 12, you have 2 more years. Also, don't do that again, your attendance at the extramural expeditions is now mandatory. Stand down. Naruto left the office and headed towards his room. He was very tired. All these battles against Titans were very tiring. Part 4. 2 years have passed. Half of the refugees didn't survive, they were sent outside the walls, only half came back. In 1 day, they could enter the cadet corps. And on that day, Naruto sat on the couch staring at the ceiling. He would have stayed in his room if Levi hadn't told him to get some air. He left the room and decided to ask Levi something. Levi, why don't you come with me? Levi gave him an evil look. Why not? It's boring to be alone. Was the simple answer. Why don't you fuck off? Levi answered rudely, the guy's cheeks puffed out at this response. Watching this scene, Levi tried to think of his next move if he refused. It occurred to him that he would cry, and everyone would come screaming, and start to scold him. Okay, kid, I'll go with you. He went to the closet and put on his hood so they wouldn't notice. They are going to pay special attention to us, I suggest you put it on too. Referring to the hood, the boy decided to follow the advice and put on the hood and they left. How Levi has changed, but that's just for Naruto. What was he like 2 years ago? Said Hanji Zoe to him, a girl of average height, with brown hair pulled back in a high ponytail. She wore glasses. 2 years ago. Let me see. He was selfish, obsessed with cleaning, and he still is. But in those 2 years, his attitude towards Naruto has changed. They're like brothers now. He's still the same with us, a selfish jerk. Said he has brown eyes and blonde hair, which he puts in a ponytail with a knot at the back of his head. He also wears a small beard. Levi and Naruto walked through the city until they came across some of the inhabitants who were fighting. Among them were the wall guards or whatever they were called. Among them were 2 12-year-old children. A boy and a girl. The boy was grabbed by the arms by the hooligans and the boy couldn't do anything. And the girl was hitting everyone. Levi, should we intervene? She looked at him. Okay. They disarmed the adults first, hitting them on both legs, but not hard. They knew that if they hit them hard they could break their legs. After the adults, they started on the children. Naruto took care of the boy and Levi took care of the girl. They pinned them down and put their hands behind their backs. The girl tried to break free, but Levi immediately kicked her in the head with his foot. The girl's head was bleeding and blood was running down her face. "Mikasa!" shouted the child Naruto was holding in his arms. But in those 2 years with Levi, Naruto had become like him. His way of speaking became coarse. Naruto no longer hesitated to humiliate and provoke those who opposed or annoyed him. Taking a bad example from Levi. But he's still nice, if you don't piss him off too much. Levi and Naruto. "Mikasa!" shouted the child Naruto was holding in his arms. He started squirming and kicked Naruto in the leg. Naruto tolerated it, but when the boy kicked him again, but with all his might, he ran out of patience. The boy grabbed him by the hair and slammed him to the pavement. He lifted him up a little and slapped him in the jaw but didn't let go. He threw him towards the girl, facing her. Some of the bystanders opened Levi's hood. They all started shouting, "What? Why did he do that?" etc. "We're leaving." They started to walk away. They had already moved about 4 meters away. The whole distance Levi was dragging the girl with him. He threw her towards that guy. She fell on top of him. They arrived home and went who went where. Naruto called Erwin. Levi went straight to the kitchen. Naruto went up to the second floor to Erwin's office. He got up and walked to Erwin's office. He knocked on the door and walked in. "Erwi, do you need something?" "Stop calling me that. I have a favor to ask you. Don't be late for the start of training tomorrow, at the cadet corps." Naruto started calling him that for no apparent reason. "Okay, I won't be late." The boy left Erwin's office and headed to his room. Part 5. Naruto went up to the second floor to Erwin's office. He got up and walked to Erwin's office. He knocked on the door and entered. "Erwi, do you need something?" "Stop calling me that. I have a favor to ask you. Don't be late for the start of training tomorrow, at the cadet corps." Naruto started calling him that for no apparent reason. "Okay, I won't be late." The boy left Erwin's office and headed for the kitchen. Naruto went down to the first floor. The whole survey corps was supposed to be there. They usually meet in the kitchen, so he headed to the kitchen. He walked into the kitchen, but there was only Levi, drinking tea. I had always wondered how he drank out of cups. He didn't drink like humans. He didn't grab the cup by the handle, he held it by the top and drank. Levi paid no attention to him and continued drinking from his cup. Levi listens. "When I am in the cadet corps, you will visit me." At such a request, Levi spit out all the tea he was drinking. "At least once a week." "That's too much to ask, little man. Don't you want once a year?" "No. Once a week, I'll settle for Databeo." Levi got up from the table and went towards the boy. They started to bump foreheads and look at each other as enemies. For them it was just a game. They did it every time they fought. Well, once a week. Naruto's eyes sparkled with happiness and he started jumping all over the house like a frenzy. Naruto ran to his room. He had to get up early. He entered his room. On the chair was his cadet corps uniform. It had been issued to him yesterday morning. The boy lay down on his bed and fell asleep. Naruto woke up 2 hours before the start. He decided to prepare for the start of training. He washed, cleaned, etc. The boy went to the kitchen to make himself some tea to stay awake all day. Levi and the rest of the Survey Corps group were sitting there. "Good morning." Naruto yawned and started making the tea. The Survey Corps was sitting there looking at him. They were surprised. "Naruto, do you know what time it is?" "I still have 2 hours left, don't worry." The kettle boiled. He poured the boiling water into a cup and then took a tea bag and put it in the cup. After a minute, she took out the tea bag and began to drink the tea. "Actually, you only have 5 minutes." Naruto spit out all the tea he had in his mouth and looked at Hanji. "The clock in your room is broken, we forgot to tell you." The boy ran to his room and grabbed a Survey Corps cape, ran out of his room and ran towards them. "Where is this cadet school?" They all shrugged, they didn't know where it was. Naruto angrily ran out of the house and climbed up the wall. He started running up and down. looking for the school. He thought it would be faster. At this rate I won't find this place for another hour. I'll turn on my Sharingan. His eyes turned red with 3 tomo. He ran along the walls until he felt a lot of energy in one place. He ran there. He had 2 minutes left. The cadet corps is located far away from civilization, surrounded by mountains and forests. The cadet corps is surrounded by a 3-meter-high wooden wall that stretches for several kilometers. The cadet corps itself is located near a mountain in a hand-dug crater. Inside the crater are the barracks where the cadets live during their training, the canteen where they eat, the headquarters and a watchtower to keep an eye on the cadets. He spotted it from afar and used his Sharingan to survey the area. He jumped off the wall and ran towards the place. He reached the wall in 30 seconds and jumped over it. There were cadets standing there. He needed to jump down but he was afraid of falling on someone. A risky decision but he decided to run along the wall. He ran down and then jumped to an open spot where there were no cadets. Naruto landed so softly that not a dent was left. The cadets didn't even have time to be surprised as they heard the whistle and stood up. An old man walked in front of Naruto. He was bald and tall, wild-eyed. The man asked everyone where they were from, their goals, where they would be going, only rudely. He asked everyone but Naruto. I don't want to go near him. He gives off a monstrous aura, the aura of a killer. Just like Captain Levi. All this, interrogation, of the cadets ended after 2 hours. Then they were put in a classroom where they were explained the weaknesses of the Titans, and how to kill them. At that moment Naruto sat down at the last desk, put down his notebook and went to sleep. He was woken up by the class bell. The class was long, almost until the afternoon. After class they went to the dining room for dinner. Everyone came over, took their food and sat down at the tables. Naruto sat alone. He ate everything very quickly, but left a loaf of bread, in case he wanted to eat. There was a crowd gathered near a guy asking about the colossal titan. Naruto decided to get a little closer, at least to see his face. He walked up and looked at him. Isn't that the guy the first beat up yesterday? I have a goal, to be like Naruto Uzumaki from the Survey Corps. The day before, the Survey Corps asked Naruto to change his appearance, or they wouldn't let him into the Cadet Corps. The Survey Corps learned of his appearance-altering abilities when he had a mission to infiltrate the Royal Police headquarters, as something had been stolen from the Survey Corps. He turned his body and face into that of the King's Guards, and easily infiltrated their headquarters. Cadet Corps. Naruto, after changing his appearance, now has black eyes and hair just below the length of his chin. His hair is spiked at the back. He changed his name, now Sasuke Uchiha. The boy noticed a girl cutting circles. She could hardly run anymore. He had a loaf of bread in his hand and decided to take it out of his pocket. The girl immediately jumped towards him. She wanted to grab the bread with her mouth, but it didn't work. Sasuke ducked and ran forward. Uchiha ran forward, but she jumped at him again, realized she needed a loaf, put the bread in his mouth and jumped away. You almost killed me, Datbeo, you disgusting bitch. She calmly chewed the bread and ignored him. Naruto walked away from her, in the direction of the barracks. He noticed that there were cadets like him standing on the balcony, watching the scene. I'm going to turn in, I have VME training tomorrow. He headed for the barracks and went to bed. Part 6. All day yesterday the principle of operation of the space maneuvering device was explained to the cadets, but our hero, hearing nothing new to him, lay down on his desk and fell asleep. And the brown-haired blonde dreamed that he had passed the professional aptitude test, after going to the canteen and eating 7 bowls of ramen. Now it was early morning and everyone was asleep until they were awakened by a loud scream, and everyone was sure it was heard even in the women's barracks. In a jiffy, the students were dressed and running out of the room in formation. Outside was a somewhat peculiar exercise apparatus, 3 large beams driven into the ground. Behind them was a guy, in whose hands he held a VME, which he was also wearing. All the rookies approached and started looking at the apparatus. Form up. The cadets moved into a welcoming position and listened to the instructions. Now we're going to hand out space maneuvering devices to all of you, and you're going to hold on to those things. The man pointed to the top of those beams. There were some crosses where you had to hook the hooks, and hang on for a while. It's a kind of training, whoever doesn't last at least 30 seconds doesn't pass, and consequently will fly out of here. Some get 2 tries, but it's very rare. The man walked up to everyone and gave them a VME. Naruto Sasuke was the last in line and was given the equipment last. Standing next to him was the guy who had been questioned yesterday about the Colossus Titan. "What's your name?" The brown-haired boy with blue-green eyes looked at him and answered. "Eren Yeager. Aren't you the one who 2 years on the ship said, 'I'll exterminate them all finished'? Or am I wrong? You have never fought titans and you are so sure of it." "You speak as if you have fought them yourself," replied the brown-haired man. With a smirk, Uzumaki Uchiha replied. "Yes, I have fought and killed more than a dozen of them." Eren bristled at such a statement. A man his age had already fought a titan. "You're afraid of them. You'll soon find out who's behind that face." That was the end of the conversation. Yeager went out to take the test, climbed a little on the ropes and immediately flew down, hitting his head and now looking up into the clouds, reminding Naruto of his lazy friend from the Nara clan, Shikamaru. All the cadets watched this failed attempt. "You have failed, pack your bags and leave. I beg you. Give me another chance." Shadis thought for a few seconds and said, "Okay, one try and tomorrow we'll see how you do." He looked at the crowd. "We have one last one left. Sasuke Uchiha." Naruto walked out to the trainer, hooked the hooks himself and started to lift him up. Everyone was surprised because he wasn't wobbling at all. Sasuke Uchiha gets the highest score. The guy jumped down, and started looking at Yeager, who was sitting next to the thing. Standing next to him was Mikasa, the second best in this exam. All the cadets made their way to the mess hall. It was time to eat. All the rookies were given a plate each, food was set out for them and they all sat down at a table. Naruto was given 2 loaves of bread to replace one, as he had scored the highest mark on the exam. Uzumaki had befriended a girl who loved to eat. Her name is Sasha Browse, and he sat with her all the time. If he didn't want a bun, he always gave it to her. It had been 5 minutes since everyone had eaten. Sasuke had already finished his portion and set the silverware aside to watch the others. The only ones not in the dining room were Eren, Mikasa and Armin. Mikasa and Armin were training Eren in the use of the VME, but he failed every time. He would fall down all the time, over and over again. Naruto approaching them noticed something on his VME. "Mikasa, give him your VME." Ackerman decided not to do as he said. "All right, Eren, come here." The brown-haired man hesitated, but approached him. "Take off your VME." The guy immediately took off his equipment. The fake Uchiha held out his hand with his device. Eren put it on and tried to hold on. "Eren, you did it." Everyone started cheering. The guy had been headbutting himself all day and he had finally made it. "Sasuke, how did you realize it was broken?" "Look," the guy pointed to the rings where the hook should come out. "It's covered with rust. That's why you've been failing. I hope you pass the exam tomorrow." The next day. "Eren Yeager, are you ready to retake the test?" "Yes. I'm ready. I was sure I would pass the exam. And if he didn't pass, he would never fulfill his dream." "Hang it." Eren swayed a little, but then stopped. 30 seconds passed, which is how long it takes to pass the exam. You passed. Part 7. It was 8 o'clock in the morning. Naruto was lying in his bed. There were still 3 hours before the exam. He himself did not know why he had gotten up early. The boy was already asleep. He hadn't even taken off his clothes. Naruto looked at everyone in the barracks until the door opened. It opened so quietly he didn't hear, but he saw Kiss Shadis standing near the door. He looked at the boy and called out to him. The brunette got up from the bed and headed for the exit. The instructor was standing near the door, holding some kind of box. "Sasuke, can you give this to Mikasa Ackerman? And to me, why not to Eren?" Naruto was a little surprised. He doesn't even know her that well. "It's just that I was lazy to take it and you were awake." Keys handed him this box. "He's training somewhere, I think you'll find it." "What's in it?" I decided to ask the boy. "I was told not to open it, and neither should you." The false Uchiha took the box and went to look for it. "Also, when you find it, come to my office." Naruto scoured the neighborhood but didn't find it. Uzumaki activated his Sharingan, saw her energy in the forest and went there. The blonde was already starting to approach that forest. He saw the girl. When he saw her, the brunette was finishing her punching practice and started pumping her abs. Mikasa actually. Whatever he threw her his box, I was told to give it to you. The girl took the package and started to look at him with narrowed eyes. Ackerman opened the box and saw inside a knitting kit. Naruto put his hands behind his head and walked towards the instructor. The boy walked towards his office. On the way he observed the place, a very strange place. He reached the office and opened it. Next to Kiss Shadis was Levi. He was talking to him. Naruto, put that stupid face away. Shadis didn't immediately realize what they were talking about. Hey, okay. The guy had become a completely different person. The clump of black hair had turned sunny blonde, his eyes were bluer than the sky and a bronze tan had appeared. Listen, Naruto has 2 more months to sit here and then we leave. Remember, when is your next exam? He turned his head to the examiner. In 10 minutes. I will be present. Also, when the exam is over, you will change your stupid face. I don't mean Naruto's, I mean Sasuke's to this one. Ah. Alright, then. We should go out. Naruto adopted another face again and before long the office emptied. The walk had taken exactly 10 minutes. All the rookies were standing around arguing over who would get the highest score. Alright, cadets. There will be 2 personalities present at your exam today, 2 of the strongest warriors. Levi was standing next to Kiss. Everyone was perplexed as to how such a person found time for them. Who is the other one? Said someone in the crowd. Everyone began to argue. The pigs shut their mouths. Naruto's eye twitched and his fists clenched. You know what your test is? To which he received a terse, yes sir. Go. Naruto ran through the forest in search of model titans. He decided to use some of his power. Finding the first titan, he hooked his hook into the back of its head. The guy cut his weak spot, and not only that. When Naruto hit the back of his head, he cut off his head in the process, even though he didn't want to do that. The guy landed and kept running. He spotted 2 titans, one 5 meters and one 7. Uzumaki hooked his hook into the 5-meter one and cut off the back of its neck, then jumping to the 7-meter one he did the same. Within 10 minutes he had already killed 15 titans, some by cutting off their heads. A whistle was heard indicating that the test was over. When he returned he changed his appearance to the real one. Uzumaki spotted the cadets and ran towards them. He already ran towards them. They started looking at him without realizing what Naruto, Uzumaki and Corporal Levi were doing here. Naruto. What are you doing here? Actually, I've been with you guys since the beginning of school. They didn't understand what he said at all. Hey, I'm Sasuke Uchiha, I just changed my appearance. Everyone started shouting and cheering. And Jaeger stared dumbfounded. He was raging against Naruto himself, his eyes widened at the memory of this. One more thing, in 2 months I'm leaving. Everyone went a little silent at that statement. Why? Said someone from the crowd. I don't know. Their instructor approached them. I will now announce the results of your exam. First place, Naruto Uzumaki. Second place, Mikasa Ackerman. Third place, Eren Jaeger. Fourth place, Annie Lenhart. Once the results were announced, everyone headed to the canteen and began to eat. Levi just sipped his tea, watching the cadets in the process. Naruto, are your barracks clean? Uzumaki shuddered at those words. Yes, it's clean. Actually it's very dirty, only Naruto's bed is clean, though he sleeps without taking off his clothes. You are lying to me. I'll go and check. The corporal got up from his desk and headed for the barracks. It took him about 5 minutes to get there. All the guys followed him when he told them to follow him. Levi opened the barracks door, an expression of unfeigned anger on his face. Only one bed was in decent condition. Hey, pigs, whose bed is this? He pointed his finger at the only bed, the cleanest one. Mine, Naruto answered. Good. Pigs, I'll come here again in a week, and if there's even a speck of dust, I'll kill you all. I'll kill you all the cadets except the blonde. He gave a shudder. Levi walked out of the barracks and headed for the Intelligence Corps headquarters. After that, all the guys started cleaning the barracks except Naruto. He contentedly went to bed and fell asleep. Mikasa sat on her bed and sewed her scarf. She had hooked it on her sword during the exam. Once finished, the girl went to bed. Part 8. A week had passed. Nothing interesting had happened, except that everyone had learned to clean up, and some had been expelled. They couldn't pass the second exam. Naruto passed the exam and stayed in the cadet corps. Levi came to see them, beat almost all of them to a pulp, but only a few remained alive. Eren, Berthold and Reiner were among them. Naruto sat down near them and started a conversation. The dialogue was mainly about where they were from, if they were afraid to see the Titans. During their conversation, the Sharingan turned on by itself. He covered his eyes with both hands. Naruto, are you all right? Reiner asked the blonde. Yes, I'm fine. There was blood running down his arms. Everyone sitting near him noticed. Hey, Naruto. That's not good. He removed his hands from his face. The boys saw the gruesome scene. His whole face was covered in blood, the red iris, burning, against the black white. He grabbed Reiner by the neck and began to choke him. Eren and Berthold started hitting the blonde to get him to let go, but to no avail. Reiner kicked Naruto in the head with the last of his strength and released him. All the blood on his face was gone and his eyes had returned to normal. Reiner gasped, gaining air for his lungs. Naruto lay unconscious. What was wrong with him? The guys looked at the guy. He wasn't a danger anytime soon. Personality split. Berthold thought aloud. Naruto woke up. His friends looked at him like an animal. What's wrong with you? It's like looking at a titan. What's wrong with you? Don't you remember? I don't remember anything, only that we were talking about where we live, and then. Okay, go to sleep. Naruto clutched his head and went to his bed. Something strange happened to you. What happened to me? You don't want to know. Naruto went to his bed, took off his shoes and went to sleep. He was woken up by Reiner. He told him to form up near the barracks. Uzumaki put on his boots and they walked out of the building. All the cadets were standing there. Kiss was in front of them. The rabble. Follow me. All the rookies followed him. He led them into a field surrounded by barbed wire. Shadis stood at a table. Today there will be training. Hand-to-hand combat. A man approached him with a box. He put the box on the table and opened it. There were small wooden knives. You will have a target. You will have to hit the knife and knock your opponent down. Now, I am going to name the pairs that are going to train together. Each pair I name will come to me and take a knife. Naruto stood for a long time. He was chosen last. Naruto and Annie. Eren and Reiner. Naruto and Annie were first. Which one of you will take it? She. He. They said it at the same time. The boys looked at each other. I'm stronger than you, so you take it. Said the girl, took the knife and gave it to him. Okay, that's fine. She took the knife from his hands and they went to the field. On the way, the boy put the knife in his pocket. They reached their battlefield. Annie ran towards him and wanted to hit him. But Naruto swung his foot towards her head. She managed to block the blow, but it was still strong. Oh man, I'm supposed to be stabbing. Sorry, the blonde pulled a knife out of his pocket. They ran towards each other. The girl hit him, but he dodged the other way. The blonde noticed and hid in the direction he dodged. Naruto grabbed his partner's arm, pulled her back and punched her in the face. Lenhart did not react as the punch was too fast and the girl was hit in the face. She flew to the ground. Annie flew 5 meters across the ground, flying back to the other couple. The guy had his fist covered in blood, looking at her. All the cadets were looking at the guy like he was a monster. Naruto ran over to Annie. He started looking at her. She had blood all over her face. Instructor. I'll take her to the medical center. The teacher nodded his head. Naruto took her in his arms and carried her to the infirmary. When they reached their destination, he handed her to the doctors and they took her inside the building. After taking Annie to the infirmary, Kiss Shadis called Naruto. The man told him not to do that again, left the building and headed towards the barracks, as it was already dark and he hadn't even eaten. When he almost reached the barracks, he noticed someone standing near the door. He approached. Sasha. What are you doing here? You haven't eaten anything, have you? Here you go. She handed him a loaf of bread. What? Are you Sasha? No one replaced you. No. I was just paying you for leaving me food. Naruto took the loaf from her hands, broke the loaf in half, broke the loaf, badly. One part was bigger than the other. He gave him the part that was bigger. Browse started to refuse, but there were no more stubborn Uzumaki in any of the worlds. He went to the barracks, a picture startled him. Berthold was asleep on the top bunk, in a very strange position. He was standing on his head, and sleeping at the same time, while all his limbs were stretched out in different directions. He went to his bed and fell asleep. Part 9. The 2 months flew by smoothly, all the while the cadets were training in hand-to-hand combat, VME training and killing titans. Naruto was first in all the exams almost every time, except he always had trouble with the written tests. He always retakes them, as did Sasha and Connie. All the students were sitting in the classroom, they were looking at their instructor. He was holding a sheet of paper in his hands, the man was scrutinizing it carefully. Now I will announce the top 10, the best students of these 2 months. First, Naruto Uzumaki. Second, Mikasa Ackerman. Third, Annie Lenhart. Fourth, Jean Kirstein. Fifth, Eren Yeager. Sixth, Berthold Huber. Seventh, Reiner Braun. Eighth, Sasha Browse. Ninth, Connie Springer. 10th, Krista Lenz. Suddenly the door opened, a tall man stood there. He had short combed blonde hair and blue eyes. Naruto, we're leaving now. The guy got up from his desk and headed for the door. He got to the door but stood for a while and walked out of the classroom. He wanted to say something but didn't dare. Naruto and Erwin walked to the Survey Corps headquarters. The road was relatively long, they walked there for 2 hours. The whole way was in silence as Naruto found no topic of conversation. The blonde arrived at the headquarters in complete silence. He had never talked to him. He could only dialogue with him, only in his office, only there they chatted. Naruto was a little surprised in general when it was Captain Smith who came for him. The boy thought Petra or Levi would come for him. The blonde had become friends with all of them, but these two especially. The blue eyes opened the door and were greeted by Petra. The girl jumped on top of Naruto and hugged him. I've missed you so much, it's been 2 whole months since I've seen you. She started to squeeze him tighter, the boy's face turned blue. Petra, let go, Smith said with a stone face. The girl let go and they followed, or rather the company was heading towards the kitchen. Erwin had already warned everyone to gather in the kitchen. They entered the kitchen, everyone was there but the 3 of them. Levi wasn't dressed as usual, he was sitting in a white t-shirt, with jeans. Naruto was surprised, but didn't decide to ask. Tomorrow we are going on an expedition beyond the walls, get ready everyone. Especially you Naruto. You are dismissed. Smith went to the 2nd floor, to his office, to sign some papers. Naruto went to his room to get some sleep. The next day, the horses were at the gate, waiting for it to open so they could go outside the walls. Nervous, said a man with blonde hair and a mustache. He started looking at the guy. No, why would I be? After saying that, the man turned away from him and started looking towards the gate. The gate opened and they galloped behind the walls. They had one goal, to free the 2 villages, from the Titans. The scouts headed in their direction. In half an hour, the scout team reached the first village. It was full of Titans. Some of the giants noticed the advance of the scouts, and instinctively ran towards them. Naruto jumped off his horse and ran to meet them. Almost all of the Titans that ran to meet them, he amputated their legs and then cut off their weak spot. With their combined efforts they cleared the first village, but still, many people died. Some Naruto managed to save, and others were less fortunate. Get on your horses. Let's move on. Uzumaki stood next to the corpse of a man he had not had time to save, and if there had been a second more, he would still be alive. The boy got on his horse and followed Levi who was ahead of him. The first village, they knew where he was, but the second. All that was known was that it was in the south. They headed south, and began to search for this village. The search lasted 2 hours. During that time 10 titans followed them, but Naruto and Levi killed them. They found the village. It was twice as big as the first one and there were more titans. The Survey Corps went there. Naruto decided to use the VME. He hooked his hook on the roof of the church. He flew up there and started looking around the village. There were just a bunch of titans. There was a titan in front of the guy. You could see the back of his head. He hooked on his weak spot and cut him down. It didn't take more than 2 hours to kill them. But there was one left, and it was right next to Naruto. Naruto saw the back of its head and hooked onto it. It flew. 5 meters to go, but the giant managed to grab him. Naruto had no time to react and was trapped. The giant squeezed him tighter and tighter. The guy cut his fingers and still killed him. The blonde landed on the ground and felt the pain in his fingers. He looked at his right hand. He was missing half a finger of each, the index and middle finger. Almost the whole hand was covered with blood. He felt a little scared. He ran straight to the doctor. The doctor only bandaged his fingers, as they were all wounded, and the doctor would have done nothing. She could only bandage the wound and that was it. They collected all the corpses in the village and went to another village to do the same. They were already at the wall, but Naruto got dizzy and fell off the horse. He was caught by Levi in time to get him on the cart. Part 10. Naruto woke up and saw Levi and Petra in front of him. Uzumaki got out of bed and started looking at them. What happened to me? The boy's head hurt and he started rubbing it with his left hand. You almost fell off the horse, but Levi managed to catch you. He looked away from Levi. The man was sitting on the bed next to him, looking at them both. Wait. He looked at his right hand. The first phalanx of his index and middle fingers had been cut off. What's wrong with my fingers? He must have accidentally cut off a phalanx while trying to wriggle out of the Titan's hand. Naruto got out of bed, put on his Survey Corps clothes and left the headquarters. What's wrong with him? Petra asked Levi, but there was no answer. The guy walked around the city, entered all the stores, and just looked at what they sold, leaving immediately. It wasn't because he didn't have money, quite the contrary. He had a lot of money, but he didn't want to buy anything. All the time he kept his right hand in his pocket so that no one would notice and start asking questions. Anyway, the villagers stared at him. He walked through the town until he noticed a fight in town. It was a massive fight, everyone hitting each other. Naruto approached them to stop the fight but he succeeded. He grabbed the man who hit him and threw him against the nearest wall. The blonde started to look at all the people fighting. He noticed the garrison. Organizing order, patrolling, repairing defenses, these are the secondary tasks of the garrison. The main task is the defense of the walls in case of attack by the Titans and the subsequent evacuation of the civilian population. And what do? You're supposed to be separating them, not the other way around. Naruto's pupils dilated. He began to stare at them, with beast-like eyes. The guy's skin turned pale, the stripes on his cheeks, thicker, claws instead of nails. An ominous aura emanated from him. The garrison decided not to answer anything and simply walked away. The guy had to teach them a lesson. After all, they weren't doing their job. Naruto lunged at one and punched him in the face. He went flying. The guy immediately ran towards him. He punched him in the stomach as he flew. Naruto's aura disappeared and his whole body returned to normal. The blonde looked at the man he had just punched. His left cheek was covered in deep cuts and his stomach in general was covered in blood. The man had gray-green eyes and a mustache. Naruto. The voice was painfully familiar. He guessed it was Eren. It was he who jumped out of the crowd, but not alone. Armin and Mikasa were with him. The girl glared at him. She had already gone to beat him up. A terrible aura began to emanate from both of them, but Naruto's was stronger. Suddenly someone hit the boy and he fell to the ground. It was Corporal Levi. Hey, asshole, why did you do that? Well, I was slacking off. You told me yourself, a man tastes better when he's hit. Well, that's right. Levi hit Naruto in the face with his knee, then grabbed him by the hair and started kicking him. Levi stopped hitting the infant. The boy got up and he followed him, all the way to Survey Corps headquarters. All the way they walked in silence, as no one wanted to start a conversation. They arrived at the headquarters. The door was opened by Hanji, and she immediately began to look at him. The girl took the boy's hand and led him to the main room of the headquarters. They sat on the couch, the girl took bandages and began to dress his wounds. Erwin Smith entered the room. All assembled, he looked around at everyone present. All the big shots were in the building. In 2 months there will be a new expedition. I suggest you prepare yourselves. Hanji finished dressing Naruto's wounds in 16 minutes, by the time everyone had gone to their rooms. Thank you, Hanji. I'm going to my room, I'm sleepy. He got up from the couch and headed to his room. He opened the door, took off his shoes next to the bed and lay down on it. 2 months later. Winter had arrived, everything was in white. The scouts stood by the door and waited for it to open. The gates opened and all the scouts went outside the walls. They rode for half an hour, but found nothing, not even the Titans. The scouts were unlucky, a big storm was coming. Naruto could no longer see anyone because of the storm, he didn't even know where he was going. He got up from his horse on the ground, the boy stood a little on the ground, and wanted to get on his horse, but he wasn't there, he had run away. Do we have to look for somewhere to live, or do we go back? Naruto decided to walk forward first, and then go back, in case he found someone. But he realized that alone that was impossible. The blonde went into a forest, and began to walk through it. There were many dead bodies and huge footprints in the forest. The forest was relatively small, so it took him half an hour to walk through it. Naruto started to freeze, he was very cold. In addition, he was hungry. The boy heard a loud stomping, and just then, the storm ceased and visibility improved. A monkey. This monkey was walking beside him, and he did not notice its presence. A crowd of Titans was following him. There were about 20 of them, maybe more. He was very tall, about 17 meters, with his whole body covered with hair, except for his face and torso. Hey, macaca! Naruto shouted, the hairy giant noticed immediately. Are you not afraid of me? Wow, you can talk. The guy was impressed with his ability to talk. Why would I be afraid of you? Surely you are as weak as the ones behind you. The Titans didn't move, they were like statues. Why don't you attack me? Kill him. A giant shouted, and all the giants ran towards Naruto headlong. Naruto activated his Sharingan, and ran towards the Titans, he cut off all their legs, and then the weak point. He was able to kill 10 Titans that way, and then all the blades he had broke. Naruto pulled out his VME, let the chakra flow through his hands, and started cutting the Titans with his hand. Naruto was starting to run out of chakra, the Titans were sentient so they could dodge the guy's attacks. Naruto, it's me Kurama. You can use my power. Kurama, where have you been these last 2 years? I've been building up my chakra, because when we came to this world, I didn't have much. Wait, I still have my techniques. No, none. But you have chakra. I thought you said I had shadow clones. I misspoke. Naruto's body became covered in gold, his pupils elongated, and the strands framing his face rose up like fox ears. Naruto began to run like lightning, only his yellow silhouette visible as he leapt over the back of the Titans' heads and killed them. With his lightning speed, he finished very fast. He killed the last Titan and stood on the ground. Near the macaque was a Titan walking on all fours, with huge stones on his back. The macaque took the stone in his hand, squeezing it so that only crumbs remained. Naruto transformed into his original form, without the power of a Biju. The macaque noticed and threw these fragments towards the guy. They flew very fast, the guy jumped to his left side, he was fast, but still, that speed was not enough. A rock hit him in the eye, in the left eye. The guy started screaming, he grabbed his eye with both hands. All his hands were covered with blood. Kurama. The guy went into the ultimate Biju mode. Naruto himself was inside this giant. The fox was taller than the monkey, it was where 22 meters. The fox ran towards the monkey. The beastly giant was already reaching for a rock when suddenly the fox jumped on top of him. It landed right on top of him. Kurama. After Naruto's words, the fox didn't flip him over, it started tormenting his body, torturing him, tearing off all his limbs, arms and legs. And then his head. Then he began to claw at the giant's body. That giant was on all fours, standing next to him, and no one was paying attention to him. Kurama turned the body over and opened a hole with his huge claws, and a man fell out. The fox wanted to crush him with his paw but was pushed by that particular titan. The Biju did not expect so much strength and rolled. The little giant caught the man in his mouth and they ran away. The fox disappeared and Naruto landed on the ground. It was not a soft landing. A small fox appeared on Naruto's shoulder. I'll tell you where to go, I can sense a lot of chakra in one place. But it's far, I think you'll make it. Okay, go ahead. Naruto already felt lighter, but the pain was still there. And he was very tired. Let's not tell anyone about that monkey. Naruto nodded, as he didn't even have the strength to speak anymore. Kurama was telling Naruto where to go. To his luck, a very strong storm was coming, but Naruto walked anyway. After about an hour, Kurama said to jump over the wall, or run over it. The boy decided to walk, as he didn't have the strength to jump. He managed to jump over the wall and headed to where the Biju said to go. After 3 hours, they arrived at that place. It was a house or a barracks. To the left of this building, was the infirmary. Naruto was already shivering from the cold. It was closed night, so there were no lights in the house, so he doubted there were people there. Naruto wanted to use the Sharingan, but he remembered. It was in that particular eye where he had been hit by a beastly shard. The guy was strong enough to knock on the door, and he waited for someone to open the door. He waited for 5 minutes. The guy heard someone walking towards the door. That someone opened the door. It was his instructor. Naruto, what are you doing here? The blonde didn't even have the strength to get up and fell on top of him. Kishadis looked at the guy's face. The left side of his face was covered with blood. He was all pale. Medics! Shouted the instructor to the whole barracks. The cadets woke up and decided to see what was going on. The male and female part of the barracks came out of their rooms and started looking around. They saw someone being carried on a stretcher. They didn't notice at first. They saw the yellow hair and immediately knew who it was. They were all sincerely shocked. They had seen him go behind the walls today, so what is he doing here? The doctors took him to the infirmary and began to bandage and examine him. They bandaged his eye. Some cadets were allowed to look at him, but forbidden to go near him. Eren, Reiner, Berthold, those were the ones who were allowed to look at him. They wanted to make sure if it was him or if they were confused. After all, it was him, and they went to tell the others. The scouting party found a place, but it was not populated with people. They decided to enter the village at their own risk. It was a bad idea. They were surrounded on all sides by titans. What is the situation? Erwin Smith asked. The situation is lousy. If you look down from above, there are titans everywhere. Levi unsheathed his swords and started attacking the titans. All the titans were smart and could dodge, but they rarely did. Simply put, we are surrounded. Without a fight, we cannot escape. Part 11. Naruto woke up in bed to hear shouting outside. Where am I? Naruto said to himself, and got out of bed. He noticed that his hands were bandaged. He couldn't see out of his left eye either. The boy raised his left hand and touched his eye. It was bandaged. Uzumaki got out of bed and headed for the exit. Before leaving, he noticed a table near the bed he was sleeping on. There was a sheet there. The blonde walked over to the table and picked it up. There was nothing written on the side he picked up. Uzumaki decided to turn the sheet over and see what it said. It said, "When you wake up, come to my office." And where is your office? That old geezer couldn't write it. Naruto threw the sheet on the floor and went to get it. He left the building and was now outside. His friends from the cadet corps were standing in front of some building. At first they didn't notice the boy because he was far away from them. He approached them, and when he noticed him, the boys didn't move an inch. Hello, he waved to them, but they ignored him. Long time no see, he smiled, but there was no response either. The blonde got a little angry, but he calmed down and just watched them. Popadon didn't notice Krista in the formation. But he didn't care. He didn't like her at all. There was something repulsive about her. He entered that house they were watching so intently, going through all the rooms on the first floor. But the room he was looking for still did not appear. The boy went in search of the staircase to the second floor, and finding it began to climb. Uzumaki began to walk through the rooms, realizing that on this floor, there were only 3. The boy started walking through the rooms. The blonde went to the door and opened it. The first room smelled terrible, mostly of sweat. He realized it was the men's barracks and closed the door. Naruto walked to the next door and opened it. This room smelled much better, of perfume and food. It was the women's barracks. He quickly closed the door and walked to the last door. The guy opened the door. In the middle of this room was a desk completely full of papers. In front of the papers he saw his former instructor. "Do you need anything?" The old man got up from the chair and stood in front of him. "How was the expedition beyond the walls? You passed it with flying colors, didn't you? And you decided to come and pay us a visit, so to speak." "What? Stop it. I got lost in a big storm, lost my left eye, and…" "Naruto, I can feel Levi's power." After Kurama said those words, Naruto ran out of the building and waited for him to tell him where he was. He looked in different directions. The cadets looked at him quizzically. What's wrong with him? They thought. The fox said they were behind a wall. The guy channeled chakra into his legs, and jumped with all his might, and managed to jump over the wall. To say the cadets were surprised is putting it mildly. They were dumbfounded. Naruto ran to where Kurama had said. An hour earlier. "Captain Levi. We're out of blades and gas. It's a mess. Everyone hide in the buildings. If there's a basement in the buildings, go there. I'll distract them for now." He unsheathed his last swords and was ready to kill the titans. "Where the hell is Naruto? Mick, Oruo, Petra, Gunter. We'll distract them until Uzumaki arrives. Naruto." The guy ran headlong, ignoring the titans he picked up as he ran. Uzumaki arrived at the place where the Biju had said he was going. That place was filled with titans. There were many, but there were also remnants. "What am I going to fight with?" thought Naruto. The boy saw Levi standing on top of the church. He was covered in blood. He looked at his hands. Naruto decided to use Kurama's power, and went into Biju mode. A fox appeared in an empty field, and ran towards the city. To all the approaching titans, the giant fox just scratched them, ran past and with its sharp claws, slashed the back of their necks. Kurama ran towards the village, and began to kill all the titans. The whole massacre was over in 2 hours. There were many casualties. All the people began to pack the corpses into a wagon, and they were ready to go home. They all got on their horses and rode home. Naruto returned to his normal form. Levi rode up and offered to sit with him, which the boy did. They rode home. On the way back, for some reason, they didn't run into a single titan. The entire elite Survey Corps group headed back to their headquarters and went straight to their dorms. They were all very tired. Everyone in the Survey Corps had tomorrow off. Naruto knew what he was going to do. He would visit his cadet corps. Part 12. A new day dawned. All the elite warriors of the Survey Corps were already awake. Naruto woke up with a very strange feeling. The boy got out of bed, put on his boots and left the room. When he opened the door, Erwin Smith was standing in front of him. "Follow me." He turned and headed downstairs. What's wrong with him? Thought Naruto and followed him. Smith was walking towards the dining room. All the elite fighters were sitting there. They were looking at him like they did in Konoha. A nasty look, but the boy was used to those looks by now. "Sit down." Erwin pointed to a chair. Naruto sat down immediately and looked around at everyone around him. What was that huge fox? Smith started to interrogate the guy, but, Naruto thought, sooner or later they would ask him. "It's my hidden power." They all exchanged glances, then looked at Naruto. "It's okay, if you have that kind of power, you don't have to worry about the future. So, one more question, who were you in the past? You were 10 years old, but at 10 years old, no one can control VME so perfectly. You need good physical strength. And a 10-year-old doesn't have that. I used to be a shinobi." Shinobi. A shinobi is a combat unit where I lived, in another world. They have genjutsu, the ability to immerse a person in an illusion. Ninjutsu. Most ninjutsu requires chakra, the energy flowing in us enhance seals, but that's not always the case. Taijutsu is basically hand-to-hand combat using chakra. These are the three main ways. But there are also other irioninjutsu, senjutsu, kenjutsu. Our main professions are scouts, saboteurs, spies, infiltrators and assassins. I think we could use them. You can eliminate troublesome people from time to time. Okay, whatever you say. Can I go now? Erwin nodded and Naruto left. This brat is the most troublesome. Naruto was walking through the city and remembered he wanted to visit the cadet corps. The blonde ran there, he had to get out of the arc, it was where the Survey Corps headquarters was. He jumped over the wall and headed towards the cadet corps. As he ran, Kurama appeared at his shoulder. I have good news for you. In 3 years, I'll be able to start treating you. That's good. Can't you do it sooner? Unfortunately, I can't. Naruto ran to the place. He knocked on the door and a man opened it. Naruto Uzumaki. The man offered him a heart. Why are you here? To visit the cadets. They are in training. They'll be back tonight. So I have to sit here for 2 more hours. The boy came in. Where's the mess hall? There was always lunch or dinner after training. Depending on the time. I'll drive you. The man took him to the dining room. The boy took a chair and put it by the door. I'll sleep until they arrive. Naruto slumped into the chair and fell asleep. The dining room was quite large, but the boy sat near the door. Naruto woke up when he heard footsteps. The cadets entered the mess hall and didn't notice the guy. They all grabbed their food and sat at their tables, not noticing Kurama's host. He went unnoticed for about 5 minutes. But he had to get up from his chair. The blonde saw a fight, he suspected Eren was fighting with someone there. Uzumaki approached the cadet. Who is fighting with who? Naruto put his hand on his shoulder. Eren with Jean, replied the cadet without even turning around. The boy sighed in relief and went to separate them. Uzumaki approached them. At first they didn't pay attention to him, but when Naruto knocked their heads, they noticed immediately. Stop it. They stopped fighting and started staring at him. Mikasa remembered the time he hit Hannes. The girl walked up to him and swung a sword at him, but Naruto intercepted her arm and threw her aside. The boy turned to the girl and looked her in the eyes. I don't want to fight you. Mikasa, don't. Armin picked her up and pushed her away. Naruto, come to my office. Kiss Shadis stood by the door and looked at the boy. Uzumaki was walking towards the exit. Mikasa wanted to hit him but was held back by Armin. If he hadn't held her down, she would have hit him. The boy entered the office of his former instructor. Naruto, I want you to do the next training session. Shadis sat down at his desk, and started going through a stack of different sheets. Okay, what is the training about? Kiss found a sheet of paper and put it on the table. Naruto walked over to the table, picked up the sheet and read it. I'm supposed to train them, in close combat. And why did you put the names of some cadets? These are the names of those with whom you can fight with all your might. There's already a rumor going around the Rose Wall. That you can become a fox. Naruto felt a slight panic, sweat was running down his body. All this time, the fox sitting on the guy's shoulder had gone unnoticed. Yes, it's true, said the fox. Kiss Shadis was speechless at the sound of that rough voice. A fox talking, and in such a voice. That's what I'm becoming. Kiss laughed a little, well, very softly. It's only about 20 meters higher. What? Tomorrow you will fight Mikasa and prove your strength. Why against her? If they already discovered the power, I'll show it, thought Naruto. Apparently she wants to fight you. You almost fought in the dining room. She probably wants to get back at you. You can't bully her. Won't they kick you all out of the cadet corps if you don't beat me up? No, they won't beat you up. They'll aim to at least touch you. Even if no one touches you, I won't kick them out. How kind you have become. They both smiled. Where will I sleep? This question was too complicated, but the instructor remembered something. Today a cadet failed an exam and we expelled him. His bunk is left, you can sleep in it. Well, you still have time to talk to your friends. You can go now. Naruto left the room and went to the mess hall where all the cadets were now. Naruto, I can feel the power of the battleship. Where is it? In the mess hall. Naruto at first didn't believe it, he thought it was a joke. He slowly made his way to the mess hall and began to look around. There was no Titan in sight. If he had appeared he would have at least heard him. There was stony silence in the dining room. Berthold walked ahead of him and he followed. He picked up his food and went to find a seat. The brunette went all around the dining room but still couldn't find an empty seat. Naruto tapped him on the shoulder. The boy immediately turned around. "Can't you find a seat?" "Yes, I can't." "Follow me, I'll help you." They started walking towards everyone. The guy saw one who had already finished eating, but he didn't leave. He tapped him on the head. The cadet turned around immediately. "What do you want?" Apparently he didn't know who he was. If he did he wouldn't have said that. "If you've eaten, leave. Don't take up space, the others want to eat too." "What are you saying? Are you trying to fight?" shouted the cadet to the whole canteen. Everyone noticed and began to watch them. He got up from the table and started looking at the guy like a pathetic worm. "You're so annoying, get out of my sight. Stupid trash." After saying that, the cadet immediately punched him, but Naruto jumped back. He asked him nicely. The stranger ran at him with his fists, punched him. Uzumaki grabbed his hand and squeezed it with all his might, then threw him. There was again a stony silence. Everyone shouted throughout the dining room, and began to question the guy. From the questions, he realized. He was in charge. Here, this guy had defeated Eren. Annie didn't want to fight him because she said he was boring. And Mikasa beat him for beating Jaeger. "Naruto, I know where Armored is," Kurama said in his ear. "Where?" Naruto turned to the fox and looked at him. Standing near Berthold. Next to him was Reiner. It wouldn't have occurred to Naruto that it could have been him. Dinner time was over and everyone went to their beds. One bunk, but who would have thought he would sleep on the first floor and Eren on the second? Part 13. All the cadets lined up in a row in front of Naruto. Naruto yawned and began to look at the sheet Kiss Shadis had given him. "Today you will have a close combat test." All the cadets began to mutter about this test. They began to form up in pairs of two. "What's wrong with them?" thought Naruto and continued reading from the sheet. "Your objective is to touch me. You have 1 minute and 30 seconds to at least touch me. I won't hit you, just dodge." Everyone was surprised. Fighting one of the strongest. Even if you don't hit them, it's too much. But there are some cadets I can hit, but not hard. I'll give you their names now. Naruto flipped the sheet, and quickly read it to himself. Eren Jaeger, Annie Lenhart, Reiner Braun and Mikasa Ackerman. I've already heard that last name somewhere, thought the boy and started reading on. The names I have mentioned will be the most recent ones. Also, even if you don't touch me or hit me, you will not be expelled. Very well, let's begin. Naruto threw down the sheet. All the cadets took turns attacking the boy. The blonde only recoiled from their blows, they were boring. One cadet tripped over a stone when he wanted to hit him. All the weak cadets, they were finished, none of them passed this test. Eren stood in front of him. They exchanged glances, and Eren ran at Uzumaki with his fists. Jaeger swung his fist. Naruto, with his speed, got behind him and punched him lightly in the head. Eren immediately turned and punched him. Naruto grabbed his fist, clenched it with all his might and kicked him in the stomach with his knee. Eren coughed up blood and fell to the ground. Naruto squatted down, and looked at the guy's corpse. "Eren, remember what you said. That you wanted to be like me, right? First you have to defeat Mikasa. If you don't beat her, you won't even come close to being like me." Ackerman was about to kill him. A strange aura emanated from her. Naruto stood up and began to look at the rest of the group. Annie walked up to him and got into a fighting stance. Does she want me to attack? Well, apparently she does. Naruto ran towards the blonde and swung a sword. His hand was already near her face, but she jumped back and wanted to grab him. Isn't that one? The technique you used on Eren? The boy bent down and kicked her legs. She was already falling to the ground, but Naruto lifted her leg and put it on the ground. Reiner, come on you. Naruto pointed his finger at Braun. The man took a step. Naruto decided not to hesitate and ran at him with his fists. The guy punched him, but Reiner blocked the punch, still the punch displaced him 5 meters. Naruto didn't hit with his full force, but still the punch was strong. Reiner ran towards the guy and started punching him, but couldn't hit him. After Reiner's punch, Naruto jumped back. He braced himself, and appeared behind his back. He took his left arm, and put it behind his back. He bent his knees, and said in her ear, "Tough luck for you, armored." Reiner screamed, and tried to hit the guy with his right hand. Naruto dodged it and kicked him in the head. "Stupid scumbag." He slammed him to the ground. After that, he grabbed Braun by the hair, and lifted him up. "If you attack the wall again, I'll kill you." Meanwhile, live, he threw him to the side. Naruto turned to Mikasa and already completely didn't care what could happen to him. "I won't use my true power, only in case of emergency," Naruto thought, and they both launched themselves at each other. At the Survey Corps headquarters, Petra entered Erwin's office. She stood in a saluting position. "You called for me?" Petra asked. "Yes. I have a request." It's so weird to hear Erwin say that, Petra thought. "I'm listening." "You can go with Naruto, he has to explain the new plan to go behind the wall." "Is that all? He's supposed to be in the cadet corps right now." Erwin nodded. "Then I'll go." Petra got out and headed for the cadet corps. A carriage waited for her in front of the building and she climbed into it. It was not a long ride in the carriage, about 25 minutes. 30 minutes later, at Naruto's house. Both of them were already breathing heavily. They didn't have time, the 30 minutes they had been beating each other. Mikasa's whole body was battered, with a little blood coming out of her head. Her left arm was already without her cadet clothes, the skin was slightly torn. "Mikasa. And why are you protecting Eren?" Naruto was slightly battered, but not as badly as the girl. "It's none of your business," Mikasa said very rudely. However, she decided to listen to him. "I don't know what happened to them in there. But for a girl to defend a boy, you need a good reason." Mikasa, after saying that, threw herself at the boy. She gave him a punch. "Stop it." A light red-haired girl appeared in front of them. "Petra. What is she doing here?" Naruto grabbed her arm and threw her aside. Naruto got punched in the face instead of Petra. Mikasa held her fist in the guy's face for a minute before he grabbed her hand and let go. He tried to smile. He succeeded. The smile was bad. Mikasa knocked 2 of his teeth out. "Sorry," Mikasa said. She didn't know what she was doing. Rage ruled her body. "You didn't do it consciously. You were ruled by rage. Never give in to that feeling. Learn to repress it." He put his hand on her shoulder and started to fall. Petra ran, grabbed the guy and carried him to the infirmary. Part 14. Naruto was woken up by some noise. It wasn't that loud, but it still woke him up. Uzumaki got out of bed, put on his shoes and saw an iron tray. Next to the tray was a white bag. In that tray were his 2 teeth. He took them, put them in the bag and went out. In the street was Petra, with a man. They were arguing, but when Naruto approached, the man shut up and walked away. Petra made a startled gesture and climbed into the carriage. The guy stopped, and looked at her, with an incomprehensible look. "What are you looking at? Sit down already." Uzumaki gave a little wince at that tone. "I've never seen her like that," thought the guy and climbed into the carriage. Petra, during the ride to the barracks, just looked out the window. At first, while they were traveling, Naruto wanted to ask, "Can you say goodbye to your friends?" Which was followed by a very rude answer. "What's wrong with him, trying to be like Levi? He's not good at it," Naruto said in a whisper, but Petra heard him and smacked him upside the head. "I wonder what's wrong with Mikasa," Guy thought and stared out the window. Naruto and Petra arrived at the Survey Corps headquarters. They entered the building and Naruto immediately ran to Hanji. He asked her to put them back on. Guy thought she knew how, and he wasn't wrong. It took her 3 hours to put her teeth back in. She walked out of Hanji's office. And Levi came up to her and told her to go to Erwin Smith's office. After Levi said that, he left immediately, to the first floor. Naruto headed towards Smith's office, while looking at all the pictures that had been hung up when he left. He opened the office door and started looking around the room. thinking he would find something new in it. But there was nothing new, just the same tedious room. Erwin rummaged through the pile of papers until he found the one he wanted, and first read it himself, then laid it on the desk. Naruto took that as a hint to read that piece of paper. He walked over to Smith's desk, picked up the sheet and began to read. Assassination mission. He started to read on. After the last line he read, he became suspicious about this mission. At first, I wanted to explain to him how we would carry out the upcoming extramural sortie. But when I was handed this paper, there was a change of plans. Smith said very seriously. No fingerprints on it. Naruto raised his right eyebrow and looked at Erwin. No. At first I was surprised. A serial killer who killed 100 people. And how do you confirm that? The corpses were always labeled with the letter S. He got up from his chair and started looking out the window. And where is he? In a subway city. There have been many crimes there, but one so big. Never. Erwin said in a serious tone. You're going to take me there. I don't know where that place is. Naruto started scratching his head and laughing. There's a carriage outside, get in it and they'll take you there. How long do I have to stay there? Until they kill me. Where am I supposed to live? You'll be there until you kill the murderer. Wherever they take you, that's where you'll live. The boy was a little startled by that statement. Erwin told him to leave. Naruto walked out of the building and got into the carriage and they departed. When the carriage stopped, Naruto looked ahead. What is this? The gate to hell. There was nothing beyond the gate, only darkness. The door opened and they drove on. When they entered the gate, they started down the slope. In 10 minutes they were downhill, and they started driving toward the guy's temporary house. The guy entered the house and started looking around. It looked like a headquarters, a couch, a kitchen. A man who was with Naruto approached the guy who was with him and started talking in his ear. Naruto Uzumaki. You can start your investigation. It doesn't say anything, thought the guy and immediately left the house, and jumped into a building. Uzumaki stood there for 10 minutes, looking at the city. Guy jumped into the street and walked while there was nothing suspicious. A walnut rolled down the street, Naruto picked it up. Behind that nut was running a girl, Guy looked at her. Uzumaki immediately got a little scared. It was noticeable that the girl had no skin at all, completely pale, she was looking at him, with empty eyes. She was shivering with cold. The girl's appearance was not ordinary, long silver hair and green eyes. Can I feed you? She nodded very slowly. Naruto took her by the hand and they went to look for the nearest place with food. The girl barely got it. Naruto took 2 loaves of bread and gave them all to the girl. She took them and started to eat them on the way, towards Naruto's house. I've seen her somewhere before, Naruto thought, and they entered the house. Rainers. Everything was very quiet in the barracks, as it was already night. Only 2 people were awake, they were Reiner and Berthold. Hello, Berthold. What do you want, Reiner? Naruto discovered that I am an armored titan. Berthold almost screamed with fright, but Braun covered his mouth. I don't know how, but he found out. And what does that mean? We will take him back to his homeland. Whatever it takes, Reiner said with a straight face. Berthold nodded and went down to his bed. Part 15. Naruto woke up amidst screams, the screams spread all over the floor. He got out of bed and walked over to the crying girl, picking her up in his arms and placing her on the couch. What happened? Asked the boy looking at the girl. I got hit, it hurts a lot. After saying that, the girl roared. Naruto panicked, and ran to the first aid kit, grabbed bandages from there, and ran back to the girl. He bandaged her leg, and the girl stopped roaring, and looked at her savior. Sob asterisk. Thank you very much, said the girl, and started wiping her tears with her t-shirt. Naruto took out a handkerchief from his pocket and handed it to the girl. She wiped her tears, blew her nose and handed the handkerchief to the boy. Naruto took the handkerchief, folded it neatly and put it in his pocket. There was a knock at the door. Naruto went to the door, opened the door. In front of him stood a fat man, of medium height with a beard. His fat belly, bulging out of his tank top. Do you need anything? Asked Naruto. He restrained himself from laughing like a horse. Could you shut your mud up, please? The man was about to explode. Veins were starting to pop out of his head. What did you just yell? Naruto asked, raising his left eyebrow at the same time. I said. The man didn't have time to finish. Naruto grabbed his stomach and squeezed with all his strength. The man opened his mouth to bleed out, but Naruto closed his mouth and kicked him, and he flew out through the threshold of his apartment. Uzumaki closed the door carefully and stood there. Who was it? The girl asked. Naruto walked up to her and looked at her. My uncle came and told us to shut up. He smiled and stroked her head. The girl smiled back and they laughed together. And what's your name? He looked at her with a serious expression. Sophia, said the girl and smiled. Strange name, thought the boy. How old are you? Continued the interrogation. 8. His stomach growled, he clenched it and blushed. I don't know how to cook, so let's go. The boy shook her hand. The girl took his hand and they headed to the nearest store. Naruto lived near the store, so it wasn't a long walk. Naruto bought her a bun with jam. There were many in the store, but they cost a lot. The boy only had money for one. He bought a regular bun for him. He ate it in an instant. The girl didn't eat the bun, not even when they got home. The girl took a plate, put it on the table, put the bun on it and stared at it. Cadet Corps. Krista and Ymir chatted as usual until the conversation drifted to an interesting topic. Ymir, do you think Naruto hates me? Ymir started laughing and pounding the table. Why would he? Everyone loves you here. It's just that. He's always giving me dirty looks. Even at the training not long ago. When I tried to hit him and fell down. He didn't look at me like a human being. What if he loves you? Said the girl calmly. No. He can't. You're right, he's a monster. I'm even sure she was giving in to Mikasa. If she wasn't, she wouldn't be here. The girls looked at her, she was pacing back and forth. Eren and Armin hid from Mikasa. They wanted to talk privately so Mikasa wouldn't find out anything. They sat on the steps behind the house. Armin, I need to defeat Mikasa in close combat. Armin was surprised at this statement. Forget it, you can't. But without him, I can't be like him. Naruto. Eren nodded. Even if you beat her. Naruto is stronger, he gave in to her when they fought. I'll go. Armin got up from the stairs and headed to the dining room where everyone else was. A week later. Naruto walked around the city with Sophia. It had become routine. Naruto had never been able to kill the hitman, but he had stopped his atrocities. But common crimes like stealing things or fighting. They didn't stop. Uzumaki tried to stop those crimes. But this is a criminal city, they always have been and always will be. They got home, the girl went to bed and Naruto went out of the house to look for the criminals. When he left the house he felt someone following him, he paid no attention and continued on his way. Naruto walked through the streets and looked at everyone. He turned a corner and there was a street completely empty. He started walking down it until he spotted a corpse. He ran towards it and started touching it. Cold. Dead for more than 24 hours. What if? Naruto turned around and ran down this street. At every corner there was 1 or 2 corpses. Naruto heard a man scream, but then he stopped. He immediately ran in that direction. When he turned the corner, he saw a rather unpleasant sight. A man in a green hood was stabbing another with a knife. The stranger heard Naruto's footsteps and immediately flew towards the VME. Naruto wanted to jump after him, but his strength suddenly left him. He fell to his knees and started coughing up blood. Naruto took one last look at the assassin. He managed to notice the hair, it was yellow. Naruto sat on his knees for 10 minutes and then got up and ran after her. He knew more or less where she had gone. Most likely she had gotten out of the damn city and headed outside. He got to this road, but the guards wouldn't let him in. Let go of me. They pushed him. Shut up. Pay first, then we'll talk. He pointed his spear at him. How much do I have to pay? The boy asked calmly. 500,000. Naruto opened his mouth and looked at the guards in surprise. He left in silence. On the way he looked at the streets. He still assumed that in those streets there might also be dead bodies. He went to the police building and told them about that street. They went straight to the crime scene and Naruto went home. Part 16. Naruto, when he arrived at the Survey Corps headquarters. He went straight to Erwin's office. His shouts to Erwin were clearly audible throughout the house. "You've changed your clothes," Smith said, looking at the boy. "Don't get off the subject. Why didn't you answer the letters?" Uzumaki asked angrily. There was no time. The man tried with all his might to look away from the guy, but he was lucky. He remembered that he had recently received a secret assignment, just for Uzumaki. "If you had answered my letter, I would have been with you a long time ago." He pounded his fist on the table. Naruto. The boy was hugged from behind by a girl, about 11 years old. Behind the girl, Petra entered the office. Naruto turned to her. "Naruto, who is this pretty girl? What's her name?" "Don't even think about it. Her name is Sophia." Naruto took the girl, and handed her to Petra. "Take her to the headquarters, and introduce her to everyone." Petra took the girl's hand and left the office. "Erwin, in all these 3 years, I've only seen the assassin once. Well, I can tell you for sure that the killer has yellow hair." Naruto looked at Smith. "You don't suspect me, do you?" He smiled with satisfaction. "Anything can be. He's getting smarter," Erwin thought. "I suspect you, 5%. All right, I'll go." "Wait," he tossed an envelope into her hands. "In this envelope, the details of the new mission. You can start today." "Okay. And I forgot to tell you something. Every week, any day of the week, any time, I can lose my powers. But that only lasts 10 minutes. Naruto said, turned sharply and walked out of the studio behind the house. The boy stared at the envelope, immediately opened it, and began to read. "Kill the chief in charge of the police in the western area, Rose Wall." A smile tugged at the corner of his lips. The boy covered himself with chakra and headed for the police force headquarters. Roughly speaking, he knew where he was. He disguised himself as an ordinary police officer, The only difference in the uniform was that instead of the Survey Corps insignia there was the military police insignia. Naruto didn't know who was in command, so he waited for someone from the police squad to say, "Commanding officer." He walked around the entire barracks until he was suddenly grabbed. "I haven't seen you around here before." The stranger looked at him with a serious face. "I'm new." Naruto was starting to get a little nervous. Naruto noticed out of the corner of his eye that there was a small blade near his neck. "I am the commander-in-chief here. I know everyone by sight." "So, who are you?" He began to slowly bring the blade closer to his neck. "You shouldn't have told me that," the guy thought and grabbed his hand, twisting it. The sword fell to the ground. Naruto quickly picked it up, and with a swift and precise movement slashed his throat. The commander-in-chief fell to the ground, and began to writhe convulsively. Naruto crept away from the police headquarters, in the direction of the Survey Corps headquarters. He entered Survey Corps headquarters, and went straight to his room. He opened the door, but there was Sophia, lying on the bed. She was mumbling something in his ear, but the boy didn't hear her. Naruto closed the door carefully so as not to wake her. He went to the main room, where everyone usually gathered. But there was no one there. Lying on the couch he looked up at the ceiling. "Naruto, have you noticed something? I heard a voice in my head, it was Kurama." "What?" Naruto closed his eyes and started to think. "When you lose your powers for 10 minutes. Kurama was silent for a moment. "Don't drag it out any longer. Speak up already." The boy was indignant. "You can only walk and talk, have you noticed? So you'll need some time to fully recover. You haven't forgotten what you said 3 years ago. That you could rebuild my body. I'm already working on your body. But I won't be able to repair your eyes. I don't know why myself." A sadness could be heard in Kurama's voice. "Well, I'm going to get some sleep. I advise you to, too." Naruto fell asleep, along with the fox. An unknown place. "We are counting on you. Kill that girl," said the masked stranger. I'll do it, he said with fear in his voice. Part 17. Naruto was about to yell at all the staff, but a question came to his mind: when are we going behind the wall? He started glaring at her. Petra felt uncomfortable, so she answered. In 2 or 3 days. But I'm not sure. She tried to hide her eyes and not look at him as he glared at her. Also. The guy calmed down, stopped looking at her and started staring at the ceiling. When is the cadet corps graduation? Like, when we leave, which is when they leave. So, in 2 days. Petra nodded her head. Naruto got up from the couch and was about to leave the room, but Levi appeared in the doorway. Ackerman started to walk slowly towards him, while Naruto walked away from him. The blonde hid behind Petra's back. Levi stopped and began to look at the two of them. Erwin decided to postpone the departure until tomorrow. Naruto and Petra were surprised. Smith had never made such a change before, but for some reason he decided to do it. Why did he decide to change everything? Asked Petra. I don't know what the hell is going through his head. With a calm face, Ackerman said. And yes, the Corps of Cadets graduates when we leave the walls. They also changed the graduation day. Levi was quiet for a moment. We should go to the market, buy a new broom and some food. Sophia was tired of listening to them. The girl lay down on the couch and fell asleep. The boys noticed and went out quietly so as not to wake her. They brought with them Hanji and Oruo, who stood at the door and apparently waited for them. The Corps of Cadets, 2 hours before the events. There was a lot of noise in the Corps of Cadets, as they were graduating tomorrow. Reiner, Berthold and Annie were standing far away from everyone, discussing something very secret. It was not late, around 12 noon. So there was plenty of time. Annie, haven't you forgotten? Reiner and Berthold looked at the girl. Berthold seemed much more attentive. No, I haven't forgotten. I could hear fear in his voice. Then hurry up. There is not much time. In a very low voice Braun said, but the girl heard him, ran to the place where all the EMVs were kept. Good thing she didn't run into any guards along the way. Lenhart grabbed all the equipment from storage, hood, gloves. So she wouldn't be recognized. She opened a window, grabbed the nearest object and flew out. The guards didn't see her because she was traveling so fast. Present tense. Annie had already reached her destination and began to look around the streets. She knew that her headquarters was relatively close. The headquarters differed from the rest of the buildings by its structure. A 2-story farmhouse. The house was old, so there were many cracks running through the walls. It looked like it was about to collapse. The girl spotted Naruto and the rest of Levi's squad. She didn't have to worry about anyone interrupting her. She spotted that house, and headed straight for it. The girl approached the house, and she could hear the little girl playing. Annie caught a glimpse of the second-floor window. Quietly, she opened the window and stepped inside. The room smelled of sweat. That smell, it was very familiar to her. Something like that. This is Naruto's room. Annie was a little scared, not because of the findings in the room, and they weren't there. Why do I remember his smell? Thought Annie. Well, we have to find the girl. She pushed her thoughts away and walked out of the room and began to slowly make her way downstairs. The girl was frolicking, but that was the last time she was having fun. Naruto and the others arrived 5 to 10 minutes later. They opened the door. Everyone was dumbfounded, even Levi, who was mostly emotionless. Naruto had a small tear escape down his cheek. The boy immediately ran to the girl's bloodied body, lifting it up. The girl coughed blood towards Naruto, but the boy paid no attention to her, just stared at her. She tried to say something, but she lacked the strength. Naruto. I wanted to say something. She pointed her index finger for him to bring his ear closer to her mouth. Thank you for everything. Her head fell, but Naruto managed to pick her up and place her gently on the ground. On her body, drops began to drip. They were Uzumaki's tears. Everyone was crying, even Levi, which was not typical of him. That girl had grown very fond of everyone. Naruto, what did she tell you? Petra asked between tears. Naruto gritted his teeth and answered. It's none of your business. Naruto got up from his knees. Naruto was crying, tears streaming down his cheek. He could barely contain himself from crying out. So that means, you too, said the boy to himself so as not to be overheard. Erwin was in a general meeting, all unit chiefs, military police, garrison, Corps of Cadets and Survey Corps. Smith was reporting why he had changed the date. Part 18. Naruto stood there, looking at the dead girl. He couldn't believe she was dead, he didn't want to believe it. But the reality was like this. Uzumaki caught a glimpse of a sheet of paper lying in his pants. He reached for it and picked it up, unfolded it and began to read. It can't be. What it said shocked him. His words caught the attention of his friends. What is it, Naruto? The boys asked. What? For a moment, Naruto was silent. It's nothing, Naruto tried to calm down. But it didn't work. He grabbed his hand and began to squeeze it. His classmates looked at him. They knew he was in pain. They all felt bad. Where is Erwin? Naruto said. He tried to say it calmly. But a snort from his nose gave him away. At the meeting, Petra replied. She's reporting why she postponed the departure. Naruto just wanted to ask the question, what's he doing there? But Petra apparently read his mind, and answered. Is he coming soon? He should be here by now. Levi replied. The door opened and Erwin planted himself in the hallway. Because of Levi, Petra and the others, he couldn't see anything. Smith approached and could see the whole gruesome scene. Naruto's hands were covered in blood. Sophia, who annoyed him, but at the same time, was dear to him, was dead. Naruto. Did you do this? No, it was probably that assassin. The one in the subway city. Naruto said, without turning to look at him. Sigh. We'll have to bury him. Take care of it. You can start getting ready to leave. Everyone didn't want to leave, their legs wouldn't move. But they remembered that they had seen many deaths, but this was one of the most painful. Everyone had already started to go to their rooms, but they were all stopped by Naruto. Their words. I will not go to the exit. Naruto said. What do you mean you won't go? Levi asked angrily. I won't go in case someone attacks the wall. At least you know how many people die. Without you. Levi was already behind him and gave him a piercing look. I know, Levi raised his right hand to hit him. But Erwin grabbed his hand and nodded his head to stop him. Let him do what he wants. But the captain. Everyone began to resent it. I don't approve of him myself. But let him stay if he thinks it's the right thing to do. After saying that, Levi told them to clean up the blood. Naruto took the girl, and waited for the others to clean up. They cleaned up everything in 30 minutes. Naruto handed the girl to Hanji and went to the warehouse to get a shovel. He returned 3 minutes later, already with a shovel. Let's go. Zoe. Huh. Okay. They went out, behind the headquarters. Naruto dug the hole for 25 minutes, all the while Hanji held the girl in his arms ached, but he endured the pain. The hole was dug and Hanji put Sophie inside. Naruto began to bury her. Naruto, I don't know how to explain this to you, Kurama said. Naruto was a little surprised, it had been a long time since he had been heard from. What happened? Naruto asked the fox in his subconscious. That girl, she was from our world. When her soul left her body, somehow she managed to pass something to me. What was it? The boy asked worriedly. We're on Paradise Island now. I can't say exactly, I don't know. Whether he's right or not. But Reiner, Berthold and Annie. They came from an island on another continent, I think. I don't know how you know, but I don't believe it's true. I believe her. They finished burying, and headed back to headquarters, to their quarters. Naruto was still in shock over what happened, but he calmed down a bit, and fell asleep. He woke up, and went outside. Apparently he had fallen asleep, and the scouts had already left. Naruto climbed onto the lid and started jumping on them. Suddenly, there was a bright light and a very strong earthquake. Naruto turned to the wall. The Titan's head was shining above the walls, you could see someone flying near him, but Colossus, that didn't stop him. He destroyed the wall, and the Titans began to enter. Who is that? Naruto saw a man with a green hood. The guy started jumping towards him. He jumped on him, the stranger did not land softly. He flipped him on his back with a lot of force, ripping off his hood. Berthold. Part 19. Berthold. After seeing Naruto's face, Berthold pushed him. Berthold. Reiner and Annie came running towards them. They were all ready for a fight, but Uzumaki was calm. I won't kill you, I have suggestions. He started to walk slowly towards them. I know where you guys are coming from, not from here, right? The boys were tense. They knew they couldn't take Naruto. There was a small chance they could take him when they became titans. What was it about? Reiner answered cautiously. And how do you know where we came from? How I know is none of your business. And the offer is this. I'll help you, the boys gasped at his offer. Naruto. You're crazy. Kurama shouted. At that shout, Naruto covered his ears. I have a plan, so stay out of the way, said the boy so that only the fox would hear. What plan? Uzumaki didn't answer. But there is one condition. When we're done, I'll go to that island with you. Reiner, Annie and Berthold exchanged glances, and nodded their heads. We agree. Come with us. They walked away from him, and flew through the city. Naruto had no SMV, so he had to jump around buildings and kill any titans that got in his way or were in his way. They arrived at the place where the others were, namely Connie, Marco, Sasha and Armin. Naruto. Krista ran up to him. What are you doing here? You're on an expedition. Well, I decided to stay. Apparently, for a good reason. Armin was sitting, looking down. He couldn't be heard, didn't speak, maybe wasn't even breathing. Sasha approached him and began begging him to help her. Naruto, Annie, Berthold, Reiner and Marco watched all the chaos that was going on. So Reiner, do you have a brilliant plan? Annie asked. Not yet, but let's let them all group together in one place for now. Reiner said, scratching his chin. No matter how you twist it, no matter how you turn it around. We'll be sitting in this town like animals in a pen. Until they catch us one by one. What are we giving our lives for? Marco's eyes were empty, emotionless. Someone could be heard coming over the VME. Annie, shouted Mikasa, approaching the girl. I kind of get what's going on here now. And therefore, sorry to intrude on my personal problems, but tell me, have you seen Eren's team? Mikasa asked. I haven't, but many of them have already retreated behind the wall. Replied Annie. Armin is sitting there. Naruto complimented her. Mikasa immediately turned away from them and ran towards Armin. The girl ran towards him and bowed. Armin raised his head slightly. Armin, are you hurt? Are you all right? He lowered his head. Where is Eren? Mikasa turned around and started to look for her brother with her eyes. Armin turned to her. His face was full of tears. Mikasa noticed his face out of the corner of her eye. Team number 34. On our team, Thomas Wagner, Nak Tees, Milius Ziremski, Mina Karolin and Eren Yeager. These 5 died heroically in the line of duty. Everyone was in shock, they could not believe those dead. Most of the 34th group was wiped out. If we go against the giants head-on, the same thing will happen to us. But we have Naruto with us, he is stronger than Levi. Said one of the cadets. So, we have a chance to win. Said a cadet. Mikasa, I'm so sorry. Eren, he sacrificed himself for me. And for me. I couldn't do that. I couldn't do anything. I'm sorry. Mikasa grabbed him by the shoulder. Armin, calm down. This is not the time or place to let your feelings get the best of you. Eyes empty, Mikasa still cold-blooded. Even at times like this, she's still cold-blooded, surprisingly. Come on, stand up. She lifted him to his feet. The atmosphere was not pleasant, the Titans had taken over the city, and had already killed more than one team of cadets. Marco. She approached him. If we finish off the giants that have taken over the headquarters, we will have a chance to refill the gas tanks and climb back up the wall. Am I understanding this right? Mikasa said. Yes. That's right. But, even if you and Naruto are with us, there's a lot of them out there. We'll be able to. He drew his swords, and raised his right hand. What a bore. Said Naruto in his mind, he even fainted, and listened to the enthusiastic speech Mikasa was giving. The best part was that she said, I'm strong. Stronger than you. Naruto pretended not to hear and closed his eyes at that. But after she said, what are you, inept brats? Spineless cowards, good for nothing. Naruto was ready to hit her, but Reiner restrained him. The girl flew off in her VME, leaving everyone behind. Well, if there's one thing we're lacking right now, it's your oratory. The purpose of those harsh words was to spur us into action. Eren, you bastard. It's all you're doing. Jean went after Mikasa. Hey, lazybones. I don't know about you, but I don't remember us sending a girl to fight alone for everyone. Come on, guys. Or we'll turn into a bunch of toothless, spineless cowards. Everyone followed Jean and Mikasa, only a few cadets stayed behind. Naruto, you were nicknamed Fox Demon, why? Here come the questions, thought Naruto and answered the question. Because I can turn into a 20-meter tall fox. Naruto answered very calmly. But I won't because they might recognize me. Someone will definitely say they saw a fox, so it's dangerous. I see. Reiner said and they went to look for the others. He told Naruto to go to the supply squad, but the place was crawling with titans, and it was a bad idea to waste energy. His VME was lying in the headquarters, but it was probably destroyed, but there was a chance it was intact and everything was still intact. It was unlikely that the supply squadron had a spare VME, so Naruto decided to go to headquarters. Part 20. It's a commando. Naruto said as he walked towards the Survey Corps base. He tried to avoid fighting the titans, but still. On the way, he had already killed 3 titans. After killing titans, he always thought the same thing. Why do I even need VME if I can kill them like this? But he kept going. Because killing with the VME is more comfortable, and jumping on the backs of titans' heads all the time is not too boring. He arrived at the building. The headquarters, surprisingly, was not destroyed, but stomping could clearly be heard in the building. The blonde decided not to risk it. He walked around the building. He found the window of his room. He jumped on it, his body shattering it. Uzumaki covered himself with his hands so that the shards of glass wouldn't hit him in the eye. As Naruto landed on the ground, a huge hand swung toward him. It was a titan, barely fitting in the room. Naruto crouched down and immediately looked at it. What? He had his SMV between his teeth. They don't eat things like that, do they? Only humans. Apparently I got a crappy one. Thought Naruto. The titan didn't attack him, it just glared at him. Hey. Shit, why don't you attack me? Are you afraid I'll kill you? The titan had a small tear in his eye. What the fuck? Naruto said, taking a step away from him. He started chewing on the VME, chewed and swallowed. Hey fucker. Naruto with a quick jerk, punched him in the stomach and immediately stepped back. The titan fell to the ground and didn't move. I'm not going to get the VME back anymore. I have to finish him off. The guy thought and started to slowly approach the lying titan. He didn't move, the titan just let himself be killed, which Naruto did. The guy felt a nasty look, such a hostile look, which he had never felt before. He started to look around, but there was no one there. Was it just a show? Naruto pushed the thoughts away, and left the building using the window. There was no point in being here anymore. All the SMVs in the building had been taken over by the elite fighters. And Naruto's EMV had been eaten by a titan. What an incredible day, Naruto said, scratching his head. Naruto tried to outmaneuver every titan, but sometimes it didn't work. They would find him on their own as he walked down the alley. The giants would try to get their hands on him, but Naruto would jump to the roof of the buildings and then to the back of his head, killing him. That feeling again, thought Naruto, looking at every side, every corner, of the new alley. That feeling of being stared at. Not just staring, but drilling you, looking into your soul. Kurama. Do you feel it too? The boy asked the fox. He was a little scared. You mean, that strange look? Said the fox. Yeah. I don't know, but something started to change in your body. Or rather, recovering. Naruto kept listening, waiting to hear what he had to say. Something, a powerful force, is filling your left eye, where the Sharingan was. I'm sure it will manifest today, Kyubi said in a serious voice. What are you implying? Naruto jumped onto the roof, and waited for Kurama to speak. Nothing. But this power is scary. Suddenly something stronger than Sharingan will appear. But I'm not sure, nodded Kurama. If so, that's very good, said the boy loudly and continued jumping around the buildings. He jumped onto a building, and saw this image. Mikasa was sitting looking at the sky. Two titans were walking towards her. Titans are like titans, we have to save her. Naruto was about to jump towards her, but the second titan interested him. Slim build, green eyes. It's not every day you see something like this. Naruto jumped. The first titan already had his hand towards Mikasa. But unexpectedly for both of them, the green-eyed titan hit him. Mikasa went flying and Naruto picked her up and jumped over the building. He set her down on the ground and looked behind the titan. With a smile on his face, he began to wonder who was sitting there. Wondering, he began to grin like a madman. Armin and Connie flew towards them. Mikasa, you collapsed when you ran out of gas. Any injuries, any bruises? Armin asked. No, I'm fine, replied Mikasa. This is bad. There are two specimens 50 feet long. Connie intervened in their dialogue. The two titans started shouting at each other. The titan that was attacking the other titan that was trying to eat Mikasa got into a fighting stance. The two titans engaged in a fight. The titan with the slender body stood still while the other one was already approaching him. When he got far enough away, he received a blow to the head that sent him flying off to the side in the direction of Naruto and the others. Watch out, Connie said, and almost everyone jumped to the side. Except Naruto, he just put his hand out in front and it snapped in two. Everyone turned and looked at the shattered head. The titan's arm had recovered. As the titan's head, it started to recover, but the back of its head was stepped on, and it died. Naruto felt his left eye. He opened his eye for 5 seconds. During those 5 seconds, he felt that he could do anything. I can, he said to himself. He began to manipulate his eyes. He was trying to summon Susanoo. For a moment, a red aura appeared near him. No one noticed it, but Naruto, he felt it. Good thing. Naruto closed his left eye. Part 21. It feels so good. Naruto closed his left eye. Now I can do anything, Uzumaki thought and turned to them. Guys, I'll take it from here. Good luck. Naruto jumped onto another rooftop and walked. They didn't notice at all what he had done, or rather, how had he done it? He split the titan's head in two in one motion. Naruto jumped around the buildings, looking for a piece of crystal. There were almost none. All the shards had been destroyed by the titans. He decided to walk along the wall, and still found a small piece. About the size of his eye. The boy turned back to the wall. He opened his eye, and immediately lifted the piece of glass to see the reflection. How beautiful. The eye was similar to a Rinnegan in structure, the same concentrated circles, and in them it was as if space was reflected, myriads of stars, galaxies of planets. There was life swirling in them, and Naruto felt as if they were alive, life pulsing in them. Through the glass, he barely noticed the titan behind him. The blonde instantly turned around. He was surrounded by titans, but they weren't approaching him, just staring at him. What? Uzumaki began to stare at the titans. Why don't they attack me? Naruto wondered. Maybe because that I can control the titans, answered the fox to his question. Maybe. He felt the power of Armored and Colossus, but they themselves were not there. So I can sense them too, said Naruto, looking at the giants. Try to order them to do something, Kurama said. Well, this. Go to the supply squad, and kill as many as you can. I shouldn't have said that, what a fool I am. Uzumaki began to blame himself. All the titans after hearing the order, immediately headed that way. It's working. All the titans left and Naruto was left alone with his thoughts. Naruto, the first time you opened your eye, I felt the power of the Mangekyo Sharingan. Try to do the same to make Susanoo appear. Kurama said. Well, okay. Naruto started to channel chakra towards his eyes. He felt a strong force around him, bones appeared near him and surrounded him. Not bad. I didn't put much chakra in my eyes. But I'd rather not. Naruto sensed that Reiner and Berthold were already in the supply squad building. The supply squad. The place was in complete turmoil. Everyone was startled to see that some titans had appeared on the wall of the building, but almost immediately the same titans received from another. Everyone calmed down briefly, but still, it was scary. "Where is Naruto?" one of the cadets asked. He's already dead," someone replied. "That's very likely. After all, the last time I saw him, he had no VME. I wouldn't be surprised if we found him on the street." Everyone got depressed and didn't know what to do. Some cadets were trying to find, at least some weapons. "I hope Naruto is okay out there," thought Reiner. Naruto. Uzumaki jumped on the roof and looked around. He was trying to find at least one titan, but almost all the titans were near the supply squad. "What bad luck," Naruto shouted. "Almost all the titans were near the supply building, and I don't want to go there." "What? One titan was killing one after another. All the more reason not to go." Still, the titans were approaching the wall, and increasing by the minute. About 2 per minute. Half an hour passed. Naruto stood on the roof itself and watched as they ate that titan. He began to walk slowly towards the building as he was tired of standing around doing nothing. He watched as someone climbed up to the roof, quickly closed his left eye and started walking. Another titan appeared in front of the titan that was being eaten, and for some reason, moved immediately despite being held down. It bit the weak point of this titan, and then threw it at the other titan. At that point, it was getting pretty close. The titan fell, and a man began to emerge from the back of its head. It was Eren. Mikasa immediately flew towards the titan. Naruto in turn, jumped onto the roof towards Annie and the others. Part 22. "All of you bastards, I'll kill you all," Eren said with his eyes half open. "How did I get myself into this?" Naruto asked, looking at the soldiers surrounding them near the corner of the wall. Naruto tried to ignore Eren, Armin and Mikasa talking. He wasn't interested. "Fuck. Did you guys hear that?" "Yeah. I'll kill you all," he said, "you bastards." "Yeah, we heard him. He was talking about us, the bastard," the soldiers whispered. Naruto smiled and turned to those soldiers. They shrieked at his horrified look. He turned away from them and looked at the others. "They surrounded the 4 of us because of Eren. Did they see him come out of the titan's body?" pondered Naruto. Cadet Eren, a man with a thick beard and mustache, shouted. He was very tall, not even 2 meters tall. "The behavior displayed by the 4 of you proves you to be traitors to humanity. So it is up to me to decide what to do with your lives for the good of humanity. Try to throw anything or move, and you will be blown to smithereens." We fired without warning. Naruto turned to the cannon on the wall and aimed at them. Naruto waved at them and turned to the old man. "I'm not going to beat around the bush and ask him straight out. Who are you? A human? Or a titan?" Everyone stared at Eren. Naruto sat down and looked at everyone. No one wanted to talk to him because one wrong answer and they were leaving. Naruto averted his eyes and just sat back. He was watching this circus. "What I've always been best at, is working meat. Tearing it and cutting it into pieces. Come over and I'll be happy to demonstrate. If anyone wants to try my technique on himself. Don't be shy, come closer. I'll be delighted," Mikasa said, showing her swords. "Captain, this is Mikasa Ackerman. She has been assigned to the rear, but she is a match for the rest of our elite. She alone is worth 100 soldiers. Killing her. Actually, it could be tantamount to sabotaging the army. But there. Naruto is sitting there," said one of the soldiers. "He's supposed to be the strongest. I heard he's stronger than Levi." They were all whispering and arguing about the blonde. "For the last time. Who he really is." I'm a human," Eren replied. "I see. Don't hold a grudge." The old man began to slowly raise his right hand. "We have no choice. You see. No one is able to see the evil in his own heart." He raised his hand and immediately straightened it. A shot rang out. After the shot, smoke came out. Nothing could be seen, but there was something red, but it disappeared immediately. Since he knew not to use it, he approached the torso of the titan he had protected. More accurately protected Eren in titan form. He entered it. Mikasa and Armin were there. Naruto. What happened to your eye?" Armin was terrified of being in titan form. What's wrong with you? You're bleeding, Armin said, pointing his finger at his eye. He wiped it quickly. I guess I overdid it, said Naruto very calm. So, what are you doing here inside this giant skeleton? Naruto asked. This is Eren. He saved us, that's the main thing. We'll deal with the rest later. How wrong you are. Naruto thought. Hey, are you alright? Eren came running towards them. Eren, how did you? Armin didn't have a chance to finish. I don't fucking know, but he's going to vaporize any second. Like a giant corpse. We've got to get out of here. Part 23. It's going to vaporize any minute. Like a giant corpse. We have to get out of here. Eren said, looking at Armin and Mikasa. And he forgot about Naruto. Naruto turned away from them, and started looking at that tall soldier through the smoke. Scared. If he saw a skeleton, it's no big deal. Maybe he'll have a little more fun. Uzumaki started laughing out loud. Naruto. What are you doing? Armin asked. Just laughing at the stupid sheep. The boy replied very calmly. At the same time, the soldiers were startled by the appearance of a huge titan skeleton covered in muscles. And by the laughter. You'll make them angrier. They may shoot again. Armin began to get indignant. No, they're not going to do that. They've got their knickers in a twist. Look at that soldier over there. He pointed to the right. There was a soldier there whose legs were shaking. I don't see anything. Armin replied. Armin, I have an idea. Everyone looked at Uzumaki. Spit it out. Eren said. Eren's power could become a powerful weapon in the hands of the army. I agree, it sounds crazy. But if you can convince them that he's not a threat. Is there a chance? You have 15 seconds to respond. What if I were to tell you there's no chance? No. I'd kill everyone in there. Everyone would be horrified by that answer. There's too many of them, you can't. You're underestimating me. I can kill them all there. Well, so what? Armin got up and started running as he threw down the VME equipment. I'll do it or die trying. And you try to look as peaceful and friendly as possible. Armin half raised his hands. Stay where you are. Enough. He was very frightened. He was startled by that laughter, but he didn't dare to ask, the fear was stronger. Sir, Eren is not an enemy of men. And we want to tell you everything we have learned about the giants. Stop begging for mercy, it won't work. You just showed your true colors in front of everyone, and you dare to say anything. Naruto let out a small chuckle at the sound of his voice. This old man's voice was trembling with fear, just like his body. If you say he is not a giant, prove it. The old man looked at the boy, but he himself was trembling. Or we'll destroy him along with the threat he represents. There's no need to prove anything. It's not about who he is. What? I guess a lot of people saw what happened. So they must have seen him fight the other giants. And they saw the giants attacking him. Which means they saw him as food, just like they saw the humans. There's no denying that fact. Everyone fell silent for a few seconds and began to discuss what he had said. The boy is right. Maybe that guy really is for us. The smoke cleared and Naruto saw behind their heads, Reiner, Jean, Berthold and Annie standing in the house. He waved to them and they noticed and Annie returned the favor. Naruto smiled and continued to watch Armin's negotiations with a serious face. Prepare to attack. Ready. Don't let them fool you. They can tell all the convincing fairy tales they want, but it won't do them any good. The old man began to raise his hand. They're not like us, and we're not going to get along with them. It can't be ruled out that these four aren't really human. In a way. I'm not human, Naruto thought and scratched his left cheek. How long are we going to let these creatures do whatever they want? Armin turned to them and looked them in the face. They were still sure he would save them, well. Except for Naruto, he was just looking at the sky. He turned around and saluted. I was, and always will be a soldier. A soldier who has sworn to dedicate his life to the rebirth of the human race. And to that end I would be honored to give my life. Armin just shouted, he could be heard very well. Imagine if we could add Eren's titanic power to the strength of our army. Maybe we could even recapture the lost city. For the sake of all mankind, I will dedicate the last seconds of my life to Armin took a deep breath with his lungs. To convince you all of the advantages of such an alliance. The old man began to slowly lower his hand. Fuck you. Naruto appeared in front of him and was about to punch him, but the old man's hand was grabbed. That's enough, that's enough. You're freaking out again. As usual. Didn't you notice how well he saluted? Commander Pixis. He's an old, bald man with golden eyes and a bushy mustache. I've only just arrived, but I think I've got the gist of the situation. He lowered his hand. Go ahead, take command of the reinforcements. I'd like to hear. He was quiet for a moment. What these 4 men can tell me. Oh, old man. Naruto sounded glad to see him. Long time no see. Naruto waved at him. Yes, long time. It's good to see you too. Pixis replied. Part 24. Commander Pixis. The head of the Southern Administrative District, and of the Trost District in particular. The man in charge of organizing the defense of the key areas of the human settlements. Not least known among the people for his unconventional temperament. Looks like I'll never find it. Pixis, Armin, Mikasa and Naruto. Eren could not fend for himself, so he was supported by Armin. If there was a dazzling giant beauty among them, it wouldn't hurt to go out to dinner with her. He looked at Eren and the others. What am I doing here? Naruto asked Pixis. Wait, Naruto. Uzumaki sulked a little, his question, for the first time ignored. Cadet Armin. If I'm not mistaken. Pixis switched from Naruto to Armin. Yes, sir. Armin saluted. You mentioned that it was the giant force that could help bring the city back under our control. Do you really believe that? Pixis was silent for a moment. Or was it just a casual remark in a desperate attempt to save a life? It was. Dot stared at him. Both, sir. I was going to say. That the giant Eren is becoming could carry a huge boulder up to the door and block it. Such a simple and shallow idea. I wanted to believe as much as I could that Eren's abilities could help us out of this situation. Of course, at the time, I really wanted to avoid execution, but... Pixis walked over to Eren and sat down across from him. Cadet Eren, can you help us plug this hole in the door? In his eyes, there was hope. That this plan would succeed. Yes, sir, I'll do everything in my power. Just show me that hole, sir. Naruto approached Eren, and began patting him on the back. Ha ha. Well said, Eren. That hurts. Stop it. Eren said, slapping his hand away. But Eren, what if the plan doesn't work and you go crazy? What do you mean? Well, Naruto scratched his head, out of control, destroying everyone. Uzumaki slightly opened his left eye, but a terrible power was already coming out of it. All the titans in the area began to gather near the wall. Eren began to tremble at that sight, and moved slightly away from him. Eren, what's wrong? Armin, Mikasa and Pixis didn't understand why he looked scared. Eren no longer felt such a strong force that could kill him and calm down. It's nothing. He sighed heavily and continued. If I get out of control, do something to me. Okay. I'll kill you. Eren didn't react, he knew that it was the only way out. But Mikasa and Armin, not satisfied with such a statement, Mikasa approached him. I won't leave you. Mikasa said to his back. Naruto turned to the girl. What are you going to do to me? Naruto asked. I will stop you. And we'll find another way, Mikasa said smugly. She was sure she would stop him. Naruto grabbed her by the scarf and pulled her to him. Are you going to stop me? Naruto started laughing in her face. Do you remember the training session? When you and I fought? Mikasa remembered everything. He was in one piece and she was completely defeated. If a red-haired girl hadn't come, she wouldn't have hit him. Let go of me. Naruto squeezed her tighter with each passing second. I'll tell you something. He let go and she collapsed. She started coughing and gaining air in her lungs. In that training fight, I was giving in to you. I didn't consider you an opponent at all. A small pause. Uzumaki thought about what to say next. But if you can think of another way, then I'll listen to you. Pixis walked to the edge of the wall, leaned over and started shouting. Get me the employees here. Tell them we have urgent matters of strategic importance to discuss. The strangers flew toward the wall. Stop. This is crazy, Armin said. Shut up, Armin. Naruto yelled at him. You're supposed to be smart. You should realize that giants aren't our only problem. Naruto said, looking at him. All the humans had flown in, and were standing near the commander. Time is of the essence. Onward, my young fighters. Eren stood up, and was about to walk when someone called out to him. Eren, follow me. Jaeger nodded and followed the old man. The others stayed there except Naruto. He was bored in one place, so he paced back and forth. Part 25. Naruto paced back and forth, bored out of his mind. Do you guys have a spare VME? Naruto asked the soldiers who had flown. Don't you? The man asked incomprehensibly. No, Naruto replied tersely and confidently. I'm sorry. But not us, said Uzumaki, sitting down and turning his back to them. The boy felt a lot of energy. It was relatively not far away, was the power of Berthold and Reiner, well, and Eren, who had gone with the commander to discuss something. Naruto heard Pixis start screaming. It was very loud. What did Eren do there? Naruto thought and stood up. He walked to the edge of the wall, and started to look. Out of the corner of his eye he noticed 100 people. There were a lot of them. There was panic in the crowd, but the guy didn't care, he just watched them like ants. Sooner or later, they were going to die. Pixis began to deceive them about who Eren was. This fighter is the fruit of our long secret experiments to expand human combat potential through the use of giants. If necessary, he can take over a giant's body and subjugate it. How beautiful what you say, but I don't think it's true. Naruto sat down and began to listen to what he said. He shouted like this for 15 minutes until he managed to communicate with the men. All the soldiers moved to the wall, and baited the titans so they wouldn't disturb Eren. Mikasa, Eren, and the others ran along the wall, approaching that rock. Armin was in the decoy squad. What am I doing here? Naruto asked the wrong question. We have to protect him, he looked at Eren. He's killed 20 titans or so, why protect him? When he's carrying that huge rock, the man pointed his finger at the rock. He'll be defenseless. And with his legs. He was bored, that's why he was asking those questions. This way. Follow me. The man and the others jumped off the wall. As they approached the buildings, they started using the SMV, and used it to approach the rock. Naruto jumped after them, but remembered he had no VME. What am I supposed to do? The boy said briefly. He looked at that boulder. Near him, a titan appeared out of nowhere, but he didn't have time to see the rest. It fell on some house. Fuck. He jumped out of the house. Well, it's not really a house anymore. What? Nothing hurts. Sudden pain in his left eye, as if his eye had been gouged out. He fell to his knees. Naruto put his right hand over his left eye and the pain disappeared. What was that? He put his right hand on his knees, and looked at his palm. Blood. There was blood all over his palm. Apparently. When I was already landing towards the house, I didn't realize I was opening the eye. Suddenly he was completely weakened, and couldn't move. Not now, thought Naruto in a panic. The titans began to close in on him, not one, not two. And a crowd of titans, all titans that were being baited, started running towards him. Fuck, how unlucky I am. One titan grabbed him, but another immediately punched him. They literally fought over it, but one still managed to grab it and swallow it. After swallowing it, they ran back to the corners of the wall. From Mikasa. Judging by human standards, no one could lift a stone like that. But we have Eren's power. And he will help us. Eren stared at the rock and then turned to Mikasa. Eren. Mikasa asked the titan Eren. The blow surprised Mikasa. In the corner of the wall. Almost all of the titans, they ran away from the corner. But then, they still returned to that corner. It looks like we more or less succeeded in driving almost all the giants out of the city towards this one. But try as we might to avoid contact. We've already lost about 20% of our personnel, sir. The soldier informed Shadis. No, we haven't. These men did not lose their lives by accident. They died because I gave the order. Keyes looked ahead and walked along the wall. He turned his head and looked at the boy. We are at a turning point in history. The events to come will prove whether humanity will fall into oblivion or continue to exist. If, thanks to my actions, humans as a species manage to survive, I will. He took a deep breath and continued speaking. I will calmly accept the stigma of being the executioner who sent myriads of people to perdition. Part 26. Eren punched Mikasa, but the girl managed to jump aside. The Titan's punch shattered her arm. Pieces of the building hurt Mikasa's cheek. Eren prepared to strike again, spun and hit the girl. Mikasa managed to jump up and grab his head. Hello. Mikasa, come back. Get away from him. She landed on his face. Eren. Do you recognize me? It's me. Mikasa. Your family. You need to pick up that stone and close that hole. We've blown the operation, said Riko Brzezinska. Riko is a short girl with a modest but sturdy build. Her eyes are silver and her hair is short and blonde, almost white. Her bangs fall on the right side of her forehead, the rest of her hair is cut a little above her cheek. Riko wears thin-rimmed glasses, fastened to his head with strips of cloth. With you it's all clear. We have no secret weapons. Riko pulls out a flare gun and shoots red smoke. A flare gun is a weapon that fires special signaling ammunition, mainly of the rocket type. It fires special rockets with multicolored smoke. Green. Mission started. Red. Mission failed. Yellow. Mission accomplished. Commander Pixis. I see smoke. Red signal from the task force. It seems the operation to close the hole in the wall has encountered serious difficulties. This news stunned everyone. They did not know what to do next. All for nothing. Our comrades. They all died in vain. I hate to realize that. Commander Pixis. We should form a defensive formation and move towards the gate as quickly as possible. Just waiting for your orders, sir. Stand down. Pixis replied very briefly and confidently. Sir, we have to give them the signal to retreat. No. Keep dragging the giants towards the corner of the wall. As for the task force, I guess their commander on the ground knows best what to do. If anything can ensure that the deaths of our comrades are not in vain, it is that we do not abandon what we have started halfway. In the belly of one of the titans. Uzumaki was very lucky, he fell on another body, so he could lie without fear. He had already been lying like that for 5 minutes. Naruto was able to move, and slowly stood up. This is horrible. How am I going to get out of here? Kurama appeared on his shoulder. Try using your left eye. What's the point? Kurama was surprised at his stupidity. Susanoo, but you have a left eye, with a normal Sharingan. The news about the Sharingan surprised him. I had forgotten about it. When I use Susanoo, my eye gets charged, and I'm already starting to see a little worse. Too bad. There is another option. Naruto began to listen carefully. It stinks in here. He held his nose. You can use your power. Hit the stomach. He pointed his paw at the wall of its stomach. Hit it, and you're supposed to make a hole in your stomach, and you can get out. I can't. I don't have much strength yet, and it will probably take a while. Right now, the only option is to use Mikasa's. Mikasa's eye. We can't leave Eren unprotected. The value he represents to mankind is too great. We cannot afford to leave him behind. Because unlike us, there is no one who can replace him. Riko turned his head toward the rock. What? A man completely covered in blood, limping, walked towards Eren. Who is he? Part 27. We can't leave Eren unprotected. The value he represents to mankind is too great. We cannot afford to leave him behind. Because unlike us, there is no one to replace him. Riko turned his head towards the rock. What? A man completely covered in blood, limping, walked towards Eren. Who's that? Some random civilian. Mikasa replied coldly. She approached Eren and examined him quickly. The stranger turned to the squad and looked at them. Because of the blood, you couldn't see his face. Stay alert, Riko said and readied his swords. He is a normal civilian, to be feared, said Mikasa. This stranger appeared near Mikasa. She rushed at him, but the guy hit her with all his strength in the stomach. She fell down from the pain. The others jumped back and pointed their swords at her. What are you doing here? She wiped the blood with her hand. Naruto. They put away their weapons and moved a little closer, but they were still on guard. Uzumaki walked to the edge of the building and began to stare at the Titan. What was wrong with him? He turned to the squadron. He's out of control. Mission failed. Shit. Naruto said and walked away from them. Call Armin. Why are you in charge? Naruto turned around and started to stare at him. Uzumaki moved closer to him. I know more than you. He looked around the whole squad. Armin with his ingenious plans will help us. Spoke the boy confidently, looking at him. Okay, I'll trust you. Naruto walked back to the edge of the building, and watched Eren. Mikasa stood up, and wanted to try to hit Uzumaki again, but she knew he would get it again, so she didn't risk it. Naruto turned to her, and looked at her. Mikasa did too, but already with a cold stare. I didn't have much strength, I haven't recovered yet. She's lucky, Naruto thought and immediately turned away from the girl. Here comes Armin. Mikasa and the others had flown off, to protect Eren from the Titans. Naruto opened his left eye for 5 seconds, he started to call the Titans towards Eren. Armin jumped at Eren. Armin! Get him! Naruto shouted and jumped off the building backwards. 5 minutes passed, Armin thought of something. He took his sword, and stabbed the weak spot. It hit Eren, in the arm. The Titan began to scream and writhe. Naruto had already killed 5 Titans, but he had also received wounds, he hadn't fully recovered, so he was still weak. I don't want to be eaten. Naruto said to himself and jumped over a building. The boy ran through the buildings towards Eren, killing all the Titans in the way. Eren's Titan was already standing and picking up a rock. Armin flew towards Mikasa and the others. Should he help them? Naruto looked at Eren and thought. I'll help them after all. For the first few minutes, he walked in silence, there were no Titans until he approached the hole in the wall. Naruto walked beside him, which was dangerous. The rest of the soldiers caught the Titans' attention, and ran away so they wouldn't attack Eren. Half of those who distracted the Titans were devoured. Naruto ran forward, and activated his left eye, and drew the Titans to himself. It worked, all the Titans ran after him, and Eren had no choice but to close the hole. How my eye hurts. But I have to provoke them towards me, I don't need any more victims. Naruto ran with all his might, he couldn't run anymore. The eye was taking all his strength. Dead end. Uzumaki thought desperately. Titans were coming from all sides. Naruto fell to the ground. Eren closed the hole, and immediately fell to his knees. Jaeger got out of the Titan, but not completely. The lower part of his body was still in the Titan. Now more giants will come. We have to get behind the wall. We'll retreat as soon as we free Eren. They flew towards Eren. Armin flew towards Eren's body and tried to reach him. Out of the furnace. Armin. What's wrong with Eren? Mikasa shouted. It's pretty crumpled in here. I'm afraid the wall climb will have to wait. They tried again to grab Eren. It's not working. Shit. It looks like he's stuck in here. Mikasa said. Then we'll have to cut it off. Said Riko, who had flown in. He took the blades and cut the Titan's skin. Armin grabbed Eren, and they started falling down the Titan's body. When they landed on the ground, Armin felt a loud stomp, and immediately turned around. There were 2 Titans behind them. One of the Titans reached them, but was killed immediately. Both Titans were killed. Mikasa. Armin looked at his savior. That's A. Mikasa jumped towards them. What? Armin was surprised. Hey, warriors. Tell me. What's going on here? He turned to them and started looking around. Levi was looking for a familiar face. Where is Naruto? They weren't expecting that question at all. Armin handed Eren over to Mikasa. He distracted the Titan and ran over there. Armin pointed his finger to the left side, then waved. Shit. What an asshole. Levi said, and turned around. And flew in that direction, flew very fast. There was a chance that Naruto would die, as he sometimes lost his strength and couldn't do anything. Soon the construction troops and part of the Legion of Scouts arrived, and in a hurry they got down to work. Turning the Wall of Roses back into an impregnable barrier for the giants. For the first time, humanity had succeeded in interrupting the advance of the giants. An event of historic proportions, no less. Only so many human lives were lost that few people found the strength to rejoice. Part 28. Levi flew off in the direction of where Naruto was. He was worried about him, which was unlike him. Petra, fly after him. Hanji turned to Petra. Okay. She flew after him. Levi rounded the corner, and saw Naruto lying on his back, not making a sound. Levi switched from VME to running, reached him, and immediately took his head to his heart. Petra flew over, and sat down next to him. No. Petra. He handed it to Petra. Check it. She took it, and began to examine it carefully. She looked at it with a sad or sorrowful look. With her look, she was showing that it was very bad. What are you waiting for, you bastard, talk. He shouted to Petra. Multiple fractures. Rib injury with bone displacement. Probably the debris has already traumatized his lungs and he can't breathe. Why didn't they eat him? Very strange. Petra thought. Well then do something about it. Levi shouted in irritation. Naruto coughed up blood and opened his eyes. He barely moved his hand. Arm. In. Chest. He spoke haltingly, dripping blood from his mouth. Petra took his hand, and placed it gently on his chest. Naruto began to draw chakra, towards his heart. And from the heart, down his rib cage. Fractures, healed in 2 days. Kurama, make it quick. Pull the shrapnel out of the lungs, gently. He knew he could do it. It's okay, but it's going to hurt. Have a little patience. A small tail of chakra went to his lungs, and, gently, pulled the pieces out and destroyed them. It was very painful, there was nothing Naruto could do, so he held on. He was like that for 5 minutes and he could already talk and breathe normally. I can't move my arms. I can't move my legs either. He could already speak normally, but he stuttered. How? You. Levi was stunned. Tears ran down his cheeks. How could I? L lost you. B but that's why I've been hiding my. The boy was silent for a few moments. Super regeneration. They didn't believe it. I'm going to bury you right here. Levi had already changed to his normal state. Making jokes in this state. You're definitely brain dead, asshole. Thank you very much. An awkward pause, but it was interrupted by Petra. You need a stretcher. I'll go get the doctors. In the meantime, sit down with Levi. Petra stood up, and flew off clinging to the buildings. Once Petra had flown, and was already visible, they began to have a heart-to-heart talk. On completely different subjects, of which they spoke so little. When there was free time, they could talk like this. It pissed Levi off that he couldn't have a normal conversation. And it pissed Naruto off that he insulted him all the time, but not all the time. Only if he asked him something stupid. Naruto could talk normally now, but by then Petra and the medics had arrived. The doctors gently placed the boy on a stretcher, and carried him away on foot. Petra and Levi protected them from the giants. The giants were medium-sized, about 5 pieces. But Levi and Petra neutralized them. The doctors didn't stop for a second. They took him to the place where they treat people, only in a tent, and began to treat him. 2 days had passed, Naruto was already half recovered, at least he could walk. But he was still forbidden to subject his body to any effort. In those 2 days, the Survey Corps had annihilated all the remaining giants, and immediately, another task pounced on him. Jean noticed a familiar face, and slowly turned around. Marco. Jean turned his whole face, and started looking at him. How the hell? Half of Marco's body had been devoured by the Titan. The cadet. Do you know his name? Asked the doctor behind him. I wondered why he was nowhere to be seen. The doctor heard no answer. It seemed to fly past his ears. But, that's crazy. Why him? Marco. How could it be? Someone saw him die. So you know his name. If so, don't keep me waiting. Jean turned his head slightly and looked at her with his left eye. Cadet, you have to understand. It's been 2 days since they closed the breach. And we're still collecting corpses. Soon there will be an epidemic here. We must prevent another catastrophe. We don't even have a minute to mourn our dead friend. You see. Jean turned completely around and looked at her. The 104th Corps of Cadets. They turned to him, referring to Marco. Commander. Of the 19th Squadron. Marco bought. Marco, so. He began to write his name on a piece of paper. It's good that you at least know his name. Jean took one last look at Jean's corpse and left. The military spent the day in the Trost area, dealing with the aftermath of the Giants' attack. Throughout that time, the cannons on the ramparts were not silent for a second. Most of the Titans gathered inside the walls were destroyed by the cannon salvos. And the Survey Corps wiped out the rest. And in the process, they even took 2 giants alive. You were in a coma for 3 days and now you're awake and almost well. Yes. Eren. Do you have any questions? They were in a subway prison, and Eren was behind bars. Levi was looking away, apparently he was waiting for someone. What an idiot, where is that Naruto, why the hell is he late? Thought Levi, and noticed the dungeon door opening.